I call the meeting of the Village Council meeting July 21st, 2026 to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Feldman.
Present.
Glazer. Miller.
Present.
Schneider.
Present.
Powell.
Present.
And Steffler.
Present.
And Dyke.
Present. Approval of the agenda. Do we have any additions or deletions to tonight's agenda? Did you want to make a change or did you not want to make a change?
At the point of my review or contract, when it came up, I was going to ask to go into executive session. So you can list that now? Or?
Yeah. So we're going to move agenda item number 7 to closed session. Do we have any other additions or deletions to tonight's agenda? Being none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented with the addenda change.
So moved.
Support.
Motion by President Pro Tem Steffler, supported by Councilmember Schneider to approve the agenda as presented with the addendum to closed session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes by all council members present unanimously. Communications, St. Clair project update, Fleas and Vandenbroek.
It should automatically be on.
Is it on?
Yeah, there you
Yeah.
All right, we're good to go. All right, Jerk Rose with Fleece and Vandenbrink wanted to come out and give you an update. I think this is probably the biggest update yet. We're going to say yet because the biggest one's going to be when we actually see the money from the EPA. So we're going to save that for that time. But in talking to your manager, it sounds like we're getting closer there. They've cleared a couple steps on their end, and it's in review. Is that what they're calling it now? In review. So that should allow us to progress with submittal of the plans and the specs for their review, and then move on towards the bidding advertisement of the project. Currently, we have the plans and specs submitted to Eagle for the Part 41 Act 399. That's the sanitary and water permits. We're going to continue with the local permits, the soil erosion, the MDOT for the placement of the sign within the right-of-way, and the road commission for the detour route. As soon as tomorrow, we anticipate submitting this to the EPA for their review. They usually turn it around pretty quick. They're just looking to see that their program requirements have been included. So it's got the prevailing wages, things like that. Where we go from there, I think we can head out and advertise this project and look to get some bids here and advertise through the month of August. With any luck, we can shoot for trying to make the first meeting of September for consideration of a contract award based on the construction bids. Maybe worst case, it'd be your second meeting. We did just receive bids on 2 other projects. One was a $2.5 million project. That one starts Monday and has to be done by October 30th. And that one we got 7 bids on, all really good bids. The other one was a project that's $4.5 million to start May 7th of next year. And that one got 9 bids. So I think the climate is pretty good right now to get this project on the streets. I think by advertising it, bidding it now, we're going to give the contractors some flexibility on when they can work this project into their schedule. Those that want to go after it yet this year, that gives them an opportunity with a couple good months left of construction. Obviously we don't want to get into the concrete and the pavement, but we got a lot of underground work to do. And there's some little smaller pieces in West St. Clair. If they dive into East St. Clair, we need to understand that the road could be tore up for a good portion of the winter while they install the new sanitary storm and water. The good news is I do like the schedule we're on right now. a little bit better than if this thing would have been expedited and able to start, say, 7 months ago. Like if you look back at our schedules from a year or so ago, I think we like where we are now because we're going to get the underground done and the not so good weather, and then as we progress into the spring of next year, we'll be doing the paving and the concrete work versus trying to force it in yet this year and dealing with freezing temperatures and frozen grade and all those things that we really want to avoid. So I think at the end of the day, with the delays that we've had, I think it's going to work out pretty good for us, especially with, like I said, the bidding climate that I'm seeing right now with the contractors that should be interested in this project with the size of it. The schedule, I do have it extending out through, say, September of next year. I would anticipate if anybody does get started on East St. Clair late this year or even earlier in 2027, that's going to move up. It shouldn't take that long. That's kind of built on the thought that maybe whoever gets this project is not going to look to start it until the weather breaks and maybe it's March, and trying to give somebody enough time to build this project because it's a good 6 months, 7 month project at least with the 2 streets. So if they get after it, we have a mild winter. We could see the roads being done by midsummer, certainly complete. And also tonight I brought some color renderings of East St. Clair. I'm going to get you a better full-size set. The one that was sent to me today, I wasn't able to plot. The file size was too big, so we're going to get a little higher quality, but something you can probably hang here if you so desire. But it was mentioned to me by the administration that somebody at the last council meeting asked to maybe see a rendering or at least see some plans of what it's shaping up to be. Any questions, thoughts, or concerns?
So if they do jump on this in October, will they just uproot a portion of the road where the extension is going to be to move? Are they going to pull out old sewer and water, or are they going to put in new first and then pull out when they do the road?
The new will be going in first because we got to keep everybody in service, both for the sanitary and the water. The storm sewer is not quite as important. But we're kind of going to see what the contractor wants to do. You know, what crews they got available. If they want to just go after there's a small bit of sanitary on West St. Clair, servicing 6 or 7 homes up there. I mean, that's a pretty short little duration of a project. If they want to come in and try to go after East St. Clair, then that would be an option as well. I think it's going to be hard for them to have any luck getting concrete and the asphalt pavers yet this fall, and not get into that period that we don't want them here. So I don't know if I see them trying to start West St. Clair and get that done, being a smaller project with curb and gutter replacement and milling and resurfacing.
Mr. President, just to throw in a couple of more comments. One of the things we talked about was liquidated damages so that we make the contractor stay on schedule. We're going to put in a nice, expensive liquidated damages line item so that we can ensure that it's much more likely they will stay on schedule. At the same time, I think I said this at the last meeting, for us to be able to get any utilities in the ground before the winter is excellent, because then it will get a freeze-thaw cycle on the backfill. It'll get an opportunity to be compacted by traffic. That is a good thing for us. It doesn't mean not doing it that way would be bad, but that would be a very good situation for us to get any utilities we can get in before the winter. It's excellent for the final project.
So right now is the big hanging weight, the review process from the actual grant, or can we start moving without having that set yet?
I talked to them. We had some email exchanges today. We can continue to move all of this forward because They confirmed today that we can start drawing down the grant the first of next month. So money will be available. The plans that are being reviewed, if Eagle and those guys approve them, they're, again, any changes that we would get from the EPA or requests would be minor items.
Do they need to go back to the EPA once the changes are modified on the drawings and such?
Yeah, but it would be, again, it's just a return submittal. As an example, they sent me a note today. I had missed 3 questions on the grant form. And they said, hey, can you fill these out? So I took it. I stopped. The office froze because they watched me type the answers on a sheet of paper. And then I scanned them in and sent them off to them, and they had them back in a few minutes. And everything was, I mean, they were happy and moving forward again. There's just very small items left, I believe.
So bottom line is we're confident the EDA plan and review will be done before the end of this month or early next month. We're confident that the grant funding is going to be available starting next month. We're confident the awarding of the bids, is that sending them out, or is that actually awarding them in September?
That would be coming to you guys for consideration of awarding. So we would advertise through the month of August.
The expectation is this month of August, the bid packages will be created, sent out, and received back, and we would be making a decision on bidding in September, and then the decisioning on when to start this water and sewer would be dependent on the bid and the contractor.
Correct.
And we do know that there are contractors waiting for this project in particular. So.
Anybody else on council?
At one point, there was discussion about bike lanes. Is that still part of the plan? Because it doesn't seem like it's in the.
Right. The bike lanes have been eliminated. It's 2 12-foot lanes on East St. Clair. So narrower road than what you have now.
The bike lane was required to be 5 feet, right?
Yep.
And that was just too much space to take for, because we want to get the utilities out from under the road. So.
Currently, there's parking allowed on St. Clair, on East St. Clair, and West St. Clair to a point. Is with this new roadway, is that also true that will be eliminated?
For East St. Clair, correct. West St. Clair is going to stay like it is.
I thought we originally intended to keep parking on one side of East St. Clair, not eliminate it on both sides, but now we're eliminating it on both sides.
Yes. Yep. So everybody's green belt, the space between the curb and the sidewalk is increasing.
Primary purpose for that is obviously just so that the utilities are in the right of way and we don't have to tear up the road every time we have a utility issue, essentially.
Yeah, as much as we can. We still got sanitary storm that's beneath the road, but the water main is outside of the influence, and we're able to avoid the mature trees as well and not go through and tear everything down and start over. But we are doing new sidewalk. So all the sidewalks being replaced. That's kind of the makeup for the bike lane is replacing the sidewalk.
The earlier part of your presentation, you mentioned that we would hopefully be able to anticipate underground utility construction this year, get that completed through the winter, and then hopefully see a bid that would begin actual road construction early in the spring, possibly as soon as March. It's going to take 6 to 7 months, so maybe it'd be done by the summer, but the start date on the sheet that we were given says July of 2027 for road construction.
Yep.
Is there something I'm misunderstanding with
No,
that?
I think you're probably not going to get road construction in March. It's going to be too early yet. None of the plants are going to be open. It's still going to be too cold and too frozen. So probably May is probably what you're looking at. That's based on if a contractor does not get started during the winter and wants to wait until the weather breaks in March. I think that's when you'd be seeing that road construction. So it's a little flexible here. There's a winter shutdown built in that's really not represented because we don't know what the winter is going to be.
Sure. It's just, you're saying, 6 to 7 months. I don't think that's unreasonable at all. I think it's maybe even optimistic. And then it's, so if that starts in July, it doesn't complete next year at all either. Because, 7 months later, we'd be into the next year. Like you said, typically shutting down construction right around Thanksgiving. So If it were to start in July, it would also not be completed in 2027, right? They would have to finish in the spring of 28.
We'd still be looking for the utility work, the underground work to start in March or April. So that'd give them March, April, May, June. So 4 or 5 months to do that. The July is road construction.
Mhm.
So by that, I'm looking at doing the aggregate base and the HMA paving and the concrete curb.
Okay, and what would you say is the just rough estimated time frame for the road construction portion of it? If it were to start in July, how many months do you think they need for that?
3.
Okay, so it's still doable in completion next year, if even on that timeline.
Yeah, we're gonna set our completion day, our substantial completion, certainly for next year.
Okay.
That's gonna be part of the schedule that Dale's spoke about.
Another quick comment, which I don't know if any of you have ever noticed this, but Almont has the unique situation where DTE has been allowed to place the poles in the right of way. So they're not outside of the road right of way. So if we had tried to continue with our plan to use bike lane, etc., DTE would have had to move multiple poles, and that could have been very expensive as well. So they won't be moving any poles, but their poles won't be in the asphalt like they are now. So that is another good thing for the improvement on East St. Clair.
One more question for our residents, because if we start construction on the sewer pipes and all the utilities anywhere from October through January or whatever, you said the road could be torn up for the winter. When we say the road's going to be torn up, what does that actually look like for people trying to drive down St. Clair and our DPW trying to plow down St. Clair?
We will require it to be maintained to a reasonable level for the access for everybody to drive down it, and also for maintenance during the winter. Typically, the best that I've seen is they come through and they pulverize the pavement, and then it's easy to dig through as they're putting in the utilities. They can move it to the side, they can put it right back again, and that serves as like a maintenance gravel during construction.
We're familiar with that.
Yep, and that can be shaped. It could be graded easily. So I would anticipate that's what the contractor would want to do to maintain that road. And yeah, it's going to be a struggle. I mean, it's never going to be perfect. It's hard to maintain a road like that during the winter.
Well, and the difficulty with this project isn't new construction. You have to, as you noted, install the new service, connect, and then deal with the old service. So,
Right.
Even if it's abandoned in place, you're still having to do this work live.
Understand that. I just think we should get it out on the record what people might be expecting with their winter drives next winter. So,
And I think the worst case scenario would be similar to what we see on School Street right now. If there's any rutting, we have the pleasure of having road commission employees who are very familiar with grading gravel roads, so that helps us too. We were talking about that just today, that we have a backup maintenance if there's any issues that bother.
so we're already looking, okay, that's good to hear.
So really the last thing is the detour route, right? So we've already got people complaining about cars on other roads than the main roads. So that'll be a hot topic of who's going to see all this extra traffic potentially. Well, up Kidder Road is what I'm thinking is going to be the biggest in there. I mean, if anybody pays attention, there's been 3 days of complaining about the Kidder Road racetrack. So,
Yeah, we're gonna keep it on the primaries, of course, but the detour signs are just signs. People are going to take whatever route's convenient for them. So it can be.
And my belief is, other than during the time when we're grading the road for paving, it'll be open.
Do we plan on the pulverizing to take place in October while the underground utilities being done?
For the underground
Before?
utility work
That's
starts.
the first step. Okay.
Unless they choose to start on West St. Clair or something like that and delay the start on East St. Clair. then we'll have them wait until they get to the point that they want to start the utilities.
Another question I had was I see a lot of trees in these diagrams. I'm wondering, is there plans to remove any trees that might be in the way of whatever plans you
I
have?
think we worked around all the trees that were out
Okay.
there.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, I was going to ask if planting new trees was part of the plan as well, but yeah, I didn't. Okay.
That could be added later. Easy enough.
And then I guess the last question I have is the sidewalk ending on Kidder Road. I know, Dale, you started talking that DTE was going to be fixing the sidewalk or repairing it or doing some work. I didn't know if that was along Kidder Road or along St. Clair.
Their work will all be on Kidder Road. They'll
Okay.
be installing a 5-foot sidewalk that meets the 3-foot sidewalk that's there north of their property. And then they're installing an approach to the building up to probably to the fence at least. And then we take it on St. Clair.
Okay. So I'd just like to see that incorporated into here because I know we also have a lot of comments from residents about sidewalks connecting and not connecting. So if we could just make sure we,
Understanding it will be done this year. So
yeah, no, I'm just saying if we can make sure that the plan for that include, because I see the sidewalk here ends before getting to where Kidder Road is. So there's like a 5-foot stretch where there's no sidewalk. I'm trying to avoid that. So like if we can
okay.
Yeah,
make sure it all connects.
Currently, the sidewalk ends, and you have a little bit of an uphill to get to the side of the road to walk up Kidder where there's no sidewalk. So what you're asking is that all interconnects when the project's completed.
Sure, definitely.
And so that sidewalk along there is kind of pretty, it's like in a ditch. Is there a plan to level it up to the road surface at that point? I don't know if you're familiar with it.
It's not walkable after in the winter or in a rainstorm.
Yeah, it's a couple
It's
feet
not
below
sloped
the
properly. It's a lake.
Yeah.
Yeah, is this on the north side or the south side?
North side.
north
Yeah,
side.
yep. Yeah, we're making some great adjustments there. And then with the road being pulled in a little bit, that's helping as well.
What about at the intersection with 53? Are we going to be affecting the existing sidewalks that are there now? Just, I mean, we had a whole streetscape project and done, and everything was just brand new utilities put in there and crosswalks and all that. So is any of that going to be affected with this or
Nope,
no?
we're gonna avoid that.
Okay.
We're gonna peel the curb away, replace part of the curb and the drainage structure, but they just replaced a lot of those ramps when they updated the signals.
So none of the sidewalks in the downtown area near those 4 corners are going to
Correct.
be affected whatsoever?
Nope. Just the lead-in sidewalk coming across like the driveway.
Okay.
Anybody else from council?
Another thing that we might want to add is that it's kind of in exchange for giving up some parking along East St. Clair is that typically when the roads are reduced, narrow, it does provide some traffic calming benefits because it does start to become a little bit of a racetrack as people hit the hill and cruise on down. So if it's narrower, I think it just provides that visual cue for people to slow down. So that's another benefit we might want to pass along to the residents to think about.
Is the elevation going to be the same as it is now? The road surface?
Close. It's
Higher, lower?
in some areas it's going to be lower because we're trying to get the yards to drain towards the road and not back towards the homes, especially on the south side. So we did have to lower the grade some. Otherwise, the curb becomes the high point. It goes back towards the sidewalk and then towards the homes and then down towards the river, which is fine if there's not a house in the way.
Or to my backyard.
Right.
That's why I was asking for you.
How are we planning for any like lead service lines that we're anticipating to residents' homes, or is it?
We have 16 unknown services on that street. They will all be replaced with brand new copper lines.
So that's baked into the
Those
time.
people all know who they are. So it's definitely, it's part of this project.
Okay.
It's really the reason to push this project through.
Yes, council.
Last meeting, we talked about wanting to make some sort of public presentation, at least put these drawings out there. Is there any intent to make this public, put this on our website, possibly host some sort of public hearing where we can take feedback? Or are we just gonna wing it and see if everybody loves us for it?
As far as public feedback, we're not planning on that at all, but we certainly want to make the plans public, so we will have them available. We'll certainly take any comments that people have and consider them, pass them on to the engineer. But as far as changing grade or anything like that, we are matching driveways. We're not going on to private property. We don't need any grading permits, right? So this is all 100% within the village's road right of way.
How have you handled this with other municipalities, like communicating to the residents? Do you put out some kind of notice, or do you just leave that to the local government to figure out what they want to do?
Yeah, most of the time we see the local government put it on their your city page, village page, or Facebook page if you have that, whatever you typically use for getting information out to the residents. But a lot of times they would include the color rendering just to give it a little picture and a color versus just a bunch of words. But certainly try to keep them up to date on when the construction schedule, and we really won't know that until after we get a contractor on board. And then
That would be a good idea to do.
I'm just wondering if we should be doing it before we get a contractor on board, because when we're hearing the potential bids and what they want to do and what they don't want to do, don't we want feedback of what people are concerned about? They might have some thoughts or concerns that we want to make sure we address when we're selecting the contractor, because they might say they are interested in or not willing to do certain parts, or it would cost more to do certain parts, and things where we go, well, we already picked. So now we would have to see if we could renegotiate or enter into a change order to change the services. Just seems like you would want to have some potential feedback in advance, but maybe I'm the only one that thinks that. It just seems like that would be the more prudent way to go about it. But if we want to wait until afterwards to start publicizing it, I mean, obviously we could put these renderings out on our website and our Facebook page now, but just kind of thinking it would be a good idea to get some feedback in advance.
What kind of feedback are you anticipating would be helpful?
Well, I can't anticipate what it would be. Let me put it this way.
What would be helpful?
Us 6 council members just had a multitude of questions specific to our community and the issues that we know, like Kidder Road and some of the other different issues. I'm certain that if we were to put this out to the entire community, they might have some additional ones we didn't think of right now.
If I knew the road in front of my house was going to get torn up for a year, I would want to know sooner rather than later.
And if it's something on your daily commute or the ones that your kids walk to school every day, certain issues, I'm just saying, I can't imagine we have thought of quite literally everything in the last 20 minutes. So I just thought that maybe it'd be a good idea to get some feedback, but I don't know what that's going to be.
Yeah, I'm all for publicizing this and getting the word out to people, give them a place to ask questions and get answers. Just your comment about selection of contractor being based on feedback.
Oh, not necessarily based on,
Okay.
just whatever we receive may or may not inform our selection of contractor or questions that we ask during the bidding process.
So are we saying putting our rendering in the proposed schedule to date on our Facebook page is sufficient? Or
Well, if we do that, we'll get feedback whether solicited or not. I'm just saying.
that is for certain.
I'm just saying we should welcome it.
well, if we're going to do it, we need to be clear to administration on how we want that done. So how do we want that done?
I mean, I think posting the plans on the website and then notification on the Facebook page of the project right now, I think is really important. And then once we have a schedule, propose, maybe it's an open house to come and ask questions. I wouldn't call it a public hearing because the project is set. We're not changing the design of the project, but maybe an open house format where people want to come and ask questions.
Storyboard or something that they can look at.
Informational, this is what's happening, this is when it's.
Not concerned with the semantics of what we call it, just a meeting that is open to the public where they get to have an opportunity to have their voices heard.
So,
I'd like to see that.
So is the current drawing and schedule that's proposed here good enough to go up on the page? Is that what you guys are looking at?
It certainly seems sufficient to me to demonstrate the conceptual design. Until you do have a bid out, until you do have a contractor, you can't really get further than that. I don't know what else we could expect. But you know, there are changes, not only the construction process itself being difficult, but there are changes. We're limiting parking in certain areas. We're widening certain areas. There's not just going to be the growing pains of going through the actual project for a year.
It will look different.
It's going to look different in what the ending result is. So just giving them fair, notice on that and the chance to, like I said, give feedback.
I think it would also be helpful if we had a frequently asked questions page to kind of prepare in advance for any, like if you just put the picture up and say have at it, like I think it'd be proactive to have like here's a high level summary of what is planned. Are we removing the trees in front of your yard? No.
Right.
Are we replacing part of your driveway? Yeah.
Will water be free? No.
Will you continue to have water and sewer? Yes.
Yeah, that's
Like,
really good things.
That's something administration can carry out and take care of.
It sounds like Stephen is excellent.
I'll do the FAQ. Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely. We wouldn't have a problem. We'll get a digital file from the engineer to be able to put up. It'll be crystal clear, and then commentary, a brief commentary, and maybe the frequently asked question things sooner than later, so that people that see it, those basic questions are a good idea.
Anybody else with anything on this longest ever communication? Thank you for the detailed update. We do appreciate it, sir.
Our pleasure.
You stay for the rest of the meeting?
Would you like to?
I think he wants to go home.
Approval of the consent agenda, regular meeting minutes, July 7th, 2026.
Anybody else want to go first?
Take the first crack.
All right. I have a few. Let's see. Under public comment for non-agenda items, the commentary by the resident Erica Loico, it just doesn't mention that she did also request what was the status of the survey. Is one of her main points in her previous attendance of the meeting, and she did ask what the status was for that one. It just doesn't mention it. The following paragraph, council manager comments. Manager Curbison's, this second sentence, he indicated, I just want to put in the timeline for anybody that does review the minutes. He indicated that the final mapping was taking place and in discussing the parking in the downtown area. And he said hopefully to be completed within 1 month. He mentioned the 1 month timeline, just wanted the 1 month timeline added. And then throughout the rest of the minutes, we're going back and forth from referring to the village properly as a pronoun with a capital V and then not with a capital V. So there's just multiple places, sometimes in the same paragraph, it's capital V, and then right before it, 2 words before it, it's not. The third paragraph under council manager comments, the one that begins with annual evaluations. Again, sometimes this is reading more like a transcript than a summary for minutes. So just under annual evaluations will be emailed to each council member. It says regarding my position. It's not a first person transcript. It should say the village manager's position. And let's see the sixth paragraph down, beginning with village manager Curbison confirmed he had inspected the work and it was held up to the lot lines of the village municipal lot. Again, just capitalizing the word village. And the second sentence is a little bit, he's talking about two different parking lots here, and there's no clarification about which parking lot he's talking about at all in the paragraph. So if we could just add some sort of clarification in the first sentence that he was referring to the Gas Becker parking lot. The second sentence, he's actually referring to the parking lot behind the post office. So we need to indicate that he's referring to the lot behind the post office. Otherwise, somebody would not know which parking lot he's talking about at all. And if I hadn't attended the meeting, I would certainly assume those two sentences were referring to the same parking lot. They are two different parcels of property with two different owners and two different issues. The following paragraph after that, which was exactly what we just covered, we said that we would like an update from the engineering firm that included drawings and an opportunity for public comment on the project status and timeline. Can we just insert the word drawings there? And I know it's already taken place, but just for good measure, I was also going to add that Councilmember Feldman specifically requested a representative, Lisa Vanderbeek, make a presentation to council, which we did just get, but it was specifically requested. And all the way to the last paragraph before adjournment. In the first sentence, it's saying our council, which it should just say the village's attorney. Also, that phrasing of council is as in this board, not as in legal counsel, so it's not spelled properly if we're using council. But more importantly, just because we're talking about village council and council members, let's just avoid the word council altogether when referring to our legal representation. Let's just say the village's attorney. So if we could change that twice in that sentence back to the village's attorney and contingent upon the village's attorney not having any further revisions, rather than saying our council. And those are all of my corrections.
Do have change under my comment. I would just eliminate the question, would they be able to use it on a consistent basis, and change it to Almont Youth Baseball Association asked to partner with the park board for use of the field if they improve the baseball diamond, period, and then leave. Discussion was held on creating a written agreement first. Under public comment, Stephen, I wasn't sure if your changes addressed this, but the last sentence, it does read first person. If we're going to do that,
Of whose paragraph?
Public comment.
Of whose? Right. Of whose paragraph?
There's only one.
Oh, I apologize. The second public comment.
Yeah, the second public comment, non-agenda items. Just avoiding
First person narrative. I'll be honest with you, if I was trying to avoid first person narrative, I'd probably rewrite most of these paragraphs as much as possible. But I agree. That's obviously discouraging when it reads that way. I would like to do that. I just included the request for a status on the survey. But if you wanted to reword it, feel free.
Yeah, I think I would just put, she expressed that as a resident with a disability, it's discouraging to feel like her concerns are being dismissed. And then there's just an extra comma at the end there. So I do have a suggestion that, we are having quite a few of these types of changes. Would be to maybe ask Lisa or somebody to do a peer review before they come to council. Just, she's kind of familiar with how nitpicky we are and has had to do minutes. So that could be a practice that is implemented in order to avoid having so many corrections. It's on minutes.
Anybody else on? Agenda. Randy, this is a change, so did you want to give a little brief overview of your change since we're going away from the warrant and doing a check register report? Checks register?
Yes, as I stated early on and several times during the course of my reports, I wanted to start using the actual reports that come out of the software. What you see in front of you today is the report that the staff takes and they convert it to Excel and then they make all these changes. It takes 2 or 3 hours to create that warrant. I feel that the report out of BSNA is what the state wants you to see. It also, if we're pulling that report and on the left-hand corner, it gives you a time and date and the person that pulled the report. There's a checks and balances because that report is in your financial packet to as a council packet, and the auditor audits that, so he can go back to the software and see there's no changes. When we're creating our own report, there's not the same checks and balances, so it's more efficient to use the software. It also protects from human error, and it also gets us a better approval with the auditor as far as fraud and everything that they can clearly see. So that's the training that we always do at the state level with everybody. So with that being said, I wanted to name the reports exactly what they are when they come out of the software as far as the check registry, and we're doing both the check register and the disbursement. They both give a different set of information, and then the payroll check register gives you the exact information needed for what we've done in any pay period. So it would show all the remittances that occurred within that specific pay cycle, as well as any checks that were written to an employee council member. So that's the change. I did write about it in my report to you this month as well, that I was making that change. Under the financial position report, you'll see currently it's required by statute with the state that the council receives a revenue and expenditure report, a balance sheet, and a cash summary. That cash summary, I'm still cleaning up the differences from going from a due from to the, I want to say accrual. It's not necessarily totally accrual, but this type of financial record keeping that we train on and would like to see. And so in there, starting in August, I'm almost got that cash summary cleaned up and verified. I will be giving you a Excel spreadsheet because it's required by law that I'm reporting to at least quarterly on the financial assets that we have and what their term of investment is and their interest rate. And so what I have always done in my career is the council got it monthly. So I just correct the Excel spreadsheet to match the balance sheet and the cash summary and give that to you because it's an easier read. Those documents always went on the website all of my years of my career for the entire public to see. It just as a side note, I'll talk about it more at my actual time of my report, but I did work with Documents on Demand today and get through some of our glitches. And so with that being said, you'll see that I will be doing a packet that the public can get access to, as well as the council. So there'll be those financial reports and things so that the public doesn't ask all the time, what are the financials? Because it's right there every month and they can look at it too. There's some out there in the public that have that skill and background and they like to see it. So, and I'd like to have that available to them easily. So.
Also allow us to get the minutes back up on
Yes. So the reason why the last few minutes are not up and you haven't signed is we have been so overwhelmed in the office And those corrections from the June minutes, I haven't gotten back to doing them. I'm going to need to listen to the recording to make sure that they're accurate, how they've been presented. So, and so that we'll work on that as well and get that done. Lisa had printed them on the proper paper for me today, but I said those were not fully corrected yet from the way they needed to be. So that's where we're at. So the other suggestion is when you do a consent agenda, this is a side thing we're going to teach on, but sometimes I just say it when it happens. If you want to critique the minutes every council meeting, then that should be its own line item, because when you do consent agenda, it should just be that approved. If you have to take something off the consent agenda to discuss it, you're supposed to make as a point of order a motion, support it, take it off, discuss it. So I would suggest moving forward, I just put the minutes separately till we work through the issue of how you would like to see your minutes as a council, that I'm providing it the way you would like to have it. So
Before we move on to that, can we go back a second? I just want to ask, because you indicated that the reports that the software gives us is what the state wants us to see. Can you clarify why you say that? I mean, are you indicating that the reports we got before are not what the state wants us to see, or they didn't contain the same information?
on the payroll side, when we take a check, well, they do more than a check register. They do Excel spreadsheet on the entire pay. You're seeing all these deductions and everything. That's not necessary to have that. You're seeing a gross of the check and a net of the check when you see that check registry. So you want to make sure that we're not giving out too much information that someone could track. So we've always trained at the MMTA that we don't provide all of that. It's always available in a certain realm on FOIA. But why, like there's some things that I've always trained and done in my career that I put out there so that we don't see a lot of FOIAs, but then I'm also trying to be cognizant of anybody's, personal information getting out in the wrong way. So
I guess
does that answer what you're asking?
No, it doesn't. Let me clarify my question. You're indicating that BSNA gives us what the state wants to see, but BSNA is a software company.
Mhm.
They're not the state. They don't.
No, but they've worked with the state, because if you know the history of BSNA, it was two brothers that came out of Lansing that started the software. So Michigan was their first place to do that software, and they modeled a lot of stuff that what Michigan Treasury wants. And so Michigan Treasury representatives as well as BSNA come to all of the MMTA trainings and do segments, and they always discuss and then they update the software accordingly. So I would say of all the softwares that are out there for a municipality in Michigan to use, BSNA is the one that most aligns with what Treasury wants to see on their reports. So
Mr. President, if I might. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
Okay.
those numbers aren't modified or manipulated onto a report. They are the report. So
No question about that.
that is the difference. The old process, the numbers were manipulated isn't necessarily the best word, but they were different than the report.
They were translated into the report that we were being given. Understood. I understand that it's more time. It's more time intensive. It gives us more data than you think is necessary for us to see. My specific question was, BSNA gives us the reports the state wants to see. I tend to disagree. Software as a service, especially a for-profit corporation, is not the same thing as the state government and what they want. They do not necessarily align a lot of the time. So my only question was why saying using BSNA's standard reports that it's going to provide meets the necessary requirement of what the state wants us to see. It was specifically just how BSNA aligns with what the state wants us to see. Not that I have anything against BSNA or these reports, or that I think the old reports were wrong or right, or that you're wrong or right. It was really just more of they're not the state. There is a big division there between that for-profit corporation and what the state treasury wants us to see. I'm not saying that what they provide falls short of that. I was just looking for the clarification on that specific point.
well, I think that when the check, my biggest concern was the payroll and the way we show that check registry to you. That is like a 2-hour to 3-hour process, because they're taking the entire payroll summary and we're sitting there as a human resource and deleting lines on the Excel spreadsheet. So you could delete the wrong line in the process. It's so time consuming, and we're just 20, 25 employees, but you can imagine a larger community does not have the time to do that. So the report is there in the software for us already that gives you the basic information about that specific payroll, what we paid out, the gross and the net and the person, the hours, that kind of thing. So I felt like we were not doing the best use of our time doing some of what we're doing, and I'm trying to cross-train and also organize the time to be better so that, because as you know, sometimes our packets aren't out in the timely manner that I'm used to because I'm constantly waiting on staff to have enough time to get these particular projects done. So their date, they have to wait till Wednesday to do all of that, and or Thursday, and so it tends to be later. When I showed them to this week, it's like, look, I can show you in 15 minutes these three reports can be done. So that's what the test case was. I told you that like one of my first meetings. I'm going to try this, and obviously as a council you get to choose what you want and let us know. But I never really heard much feedback, so we moved forward. I said to the staff, you know, this is July 1st. This is the new fiscal year. Now I can say that it's underneath my umbrella as the clerk treasurer. Let's move forward and make these changes and see how we can change the packet and make that streamlined. So that's what I did. So that's what I'm
For
used to.
example, we were seeing the payroll register report. You're seeing like hours, how many hours
Yeah.
individual is using as sick leave or that sort of thing. I agree. That's not information that I need as a council member. And if that is taking additional time to put together, I think that
It wasn't necessary.
that's correct, that's not a good use of staff.
Because, you know, in theory, or the way the charter would be written, your manager's in charge of your employees. So if you're questioning an employee and what they're off, you would go to the manager to look at those records and that kind of thing. So it does that segregation of duty and the checks and balances, and that's just what we've trained and what I've known. So this was the test to see if you felt that was good enough, and it's what I've used for, like I said, both locations that I've worked for. So
And again, for clarification, I don't have any problem with the reports or the changes.
Okay.
It was really more of just private and public don't align. It was that phrase I just wanted to dig into. I don't have an issue with these, and I don't disagree that since all this information is running through BSNA anyways, and these are stock automated reports, I think that our village staff is perpetually behind with too much to do. So if we can take the load off by automating some of these processes to make it a little simpler, I'm all for that. And all of the information is FOIable anyways. It was FOIable when you put it in our packet because our packets are FOIable. It's FOIable, you know, through other means as well. It's not so much as though I feel as though now you've done a disservice to us and now we're left in the dark because I don't like these. It's not that at all. It's just more of a looking for clarification on that, because I know that there's been a lot of conversation that this council has had about integrating more BSNA and upgrading our BSNA processes to make things better. And so that's just a part that I watch over carefully, because software is a tool. We can use it and rely on it, and that fails us massively, and it can be fantastic. So speaking of which, was one of the things I wanted to ask you on that first page of our check register. I see there is a payment to BSNA for $15,000. What does that represent?
That's the deposit for the cloud. So I have a meeting tomorrow, actually Thursday at 10 a.m. for the first onboarding of going to the cloud. We had a conversation last week for about an hour. They are available to possibly do November 1-ish. I have some other dates because staff was freaking out a little bit about all these changes. So again, after I have this meeting on Thursday, I'll confer with Dale and come back to council and let you know. But they could do that. There's a whole, and I will share that in a written email of the process that we would be at. There will be some days of downtime, things like that as the process goes. It's about a 2-week time period. We are getting, as I wrote in my monthly report, we're kind of ahead of the game. Well, it is in this area. We will be getting BSNA payments. So BSNA came out about 6 months ago saying if you didn't use their service, they were going to charge you $1,500. Well, I'm not happy with Point and Pay. They've not changed the bank account. multiple times, like 4 times in writing, multiple phone calls. They keep putting the money in the account that I, in essence, closed. So all the credit cards are in there. So then I have to merge it all for bank rec. So with BS&A payments, they've kind of corrected some of the areas. It'll be smoother for how we draw in the credit card payment. It's in a timely manner. You can have point and pay. They might have paid on the 10th and you don't see it till the 13th in the software. So where it's a complication is at the end of the month when you're trying to reconcile bank statements. So that is going to happen on the 3rd. Will be fully integrated to BS&A payments.
The third of when?
August.
3rd of August will
Yeah.
be, okay.
We're
And-
switching. It's just basically switching the points of service terminal, so it will also fix the red line of as far as when someone's paying, there's more security than just sipping with a
Sure,
little
no,
card.
but so that's when you switch the point of sale. I get
Correct.
that. But when do you begin and then fully integrate from our current version of BSA to the actual cloud?
So it could be the week of November. We have a possible go live date. She gave me like 3 of them somewhere in after Christmas. I could do like a go live of the 9th.
Like-
So we'd be the 2 weeks before that they'd be in.
To mid to
On-site.
late November, right? You don't really want that first week of November. You kind of have other large activities going on.
Well, that's why I had to look at what she said. She gave me 3 dates last week, and I said, I have to stew on this, and we're meeting on Thursday via Zoom.
Okay.
So the other part of the payments will be, I'm getting a second point of service for Alicia back in the police department.
Right.
So what she can use credit cards back there. A lot of people come and want to report, and all they have is their ATM card, so as a debit purpose. So now that will be taken care of on that site, so that'll be easier. It's just like if someone had a park or anything, we can have multiple, and there's no additional cost to it, so.
Okay.
So
Out of our Tri-County Bank account, why are we paying Tri-County Bank $14,000? What's that line item? That was the other one I wanted to
that was the bond, or I can't say the word right. Am I saying that? It's not a bond payment, but the payment for the DDA for their streetlights. They just paid their streetlight bill. They have a loan on that with them.
Okay.
Poles. Yeah, light poles.
Okay. And
It says streetlights on the bond or the
okay.
installment purchase agreement. I'm sorry, my mind just went.
That's
with
okay.
The word.
And I feel like maybe that is the only types of discerning information that we were maybe was included before, where you would have some sort of description of what it was for, so you had a little bit of an idea.
If you go beyond the check register to the check disbursement, it gives all the description.
Well, some of them describe it. Sometimes it just says, for example, for BS&A, it just said technology. Well, I mean, I'm aware of its technology, but I don't.
That's probably all you would have got before, because that's what is pre-done in the description. So I can make sure that when Pam is doing that, she might add a side note to it for you.
Some sort of
So, because she
description.
can do that, but they're reoccurring in the software, so that one is reoccurring.
Sure. And the only reason I say that I think we got some more information is because I've personally heard Council Feldman go, I've seen AA batteries on here twice. Why is it on here twice? No, there were actual descriptions of what we are purchasing.
Yeah.
So, and
Okay.
I've personally
that's when-
seen it be nitpicked. So,
That's the credit card, because she'll like take and go into the description and start listing everything for that specific check for the credit card.
sure.
So
And it's
I
just,
will talk to her about that.
and if you see rather large line items of 15 and 14 or $20,000, it's going to be reasonable enough to go. I'm
Yeah, let
familiar
me
with the
know
company.
why.
I have no idea what we're paying them for. What is that regarding? So just clarification, because I feel like that speeds up the consent agenda, like you're getting at, if I don't have to stop and ask for that.
Yes.
So I'm fully aware BS&A can absolutely integrate that and make that possible. So that was my little feedback on that
And
part.
again, I go back to the BS&A, all the data that we're putting in to cash receipting, to bill, and to do the payroll is in that software, and we're just pulling a report from the general ledger, because the general ledger's keeping track of all that. So it's a checks and balances all the way, because if you find something, it's a report that from the work that we did, so we can say, oop, there's a problem, we need to correct, do we do something without approval? All of those things would be on that report. I think they would be easier to spot. So that's my thoughts on it.
My final question is actually under the check register report.
Mhm.
And I'm noticing an odd amount of a payment. Actually, I think I had my line item wrong. Yeah, that's not straight. That's diagonal. I take it back. I don't have a question. I know what that
Okay.
is now.
It's one thing about the report, it takes the lines out because you can send it to Excel. I think it can be good and bad to read because it's separated, it's pretty crisp on the font, but you do have to put a ruler down sometimes.
So I mean, it's different because I have to rotate the page, and if I had rotated the page before making the highlight, then it
Okay.
would have been fine.
Anybody else on check register report? Payroll check register? Water report?
Just real quick on the water report. Mr. Kerberson, is it odd to you that we were 1 million gallons of water down year over year for 3 months, and then all of a sudden now we're 300,000 gallons over a year ago?
No, and that completely depends on the weather, and the, that leads to consumption, but the level of how this is monitored doesn't worry. I'm not worried at all. And to give you an example, we did process a little more water than we had anticipated recently because we were having a valve issue where as Detroit Water ramped up their pressure to serve their customers in the high demand, it was forcing water past our valve, which was completely monitored every drop. But we received water we weren't calling for. We still record it, we pay for it, but we didn't necessarily go out and pump it. But the records are very accurate. So, no, I'm not concerned.
Detroit's pushing water past our valve that we're not asking for. Should we be paying for it?
You're talking to the person that would be first to say no, but we did not waste a drop of that water. It went into our tower and then was consumed by us at a later date. So later in the evening of those days, we would have had to pump that water into the tower, and we
Gotcha.
didn't need to in this
Okay.
case.
That makes more sense. Pete, does that satisfy your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else on the water report? DPW report.
I just wanted to mention that I noticed that we had one of our readers went down. So that created, a situation for trying to collect the water reading process. And I actually ran into Supervisor Treat today in the parking lot, and I was asking about it because I had just finished reading his report. And I said, so how long was it down? He said, it's not that big of a deal. And we do have another reader and we can do it. But he said, we regularly have reads, or we regularly have some meters that we can't read. And then, we get told that we can't tell, or he was explaining that the DPW staff cannot tell when they don't get a read. It basically just sends an error code, and then village staff has to then notify him and send him back out, or his staff back out to go get yet another read. And sometimes that isn't completed in a billing cycle. So my question is how does the village staff deal with sending out a water bill when they were not capable of getting an accurate read on the meter? Because sometimes, for example, as the DPW supervisor explained to me, sometimes that meter is dead and it has a problem, it's defective, and they need to order another one and replace it. So what do we do for our water customer for that quarter?
We have a very detailed process that Pam goes through to look at the history and determine what their average use was
So we prorate
during
it.
that time frame for 3 years, and then we translate that into their current use and we bill at that rate.
So we're prorating it when we can't do it, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the reason why I asked that is because we've had, constant complaints about certain water customers saying they get the same bill to the penny quarter after quarter. And I'm going, that's not possible. They're saying that's not possible. I'm going, the only way it would be possible is if we were prorating, and we don't prorate. But in fact, we do on occasion prorate. I guess I'm just concerned how often that actually happens, because it certainly seems like at least some of the complaints we've heard may actually, in fact, be truthful, and they might have a realistic reason for concern if that is our process. It does seem like a failure. I am less and less impressed by our water meters. A lot of the things that I thought that they do, they don't do, and they don't hold up that great, is my own personal opinion. But the truth of the matter is that we have no other option than to prorate it for an entire quarter when we only find out that there's an error afterwards, correct? Because sometimes it's just we just didn't get a read and the meter didn't even need a replacement. But then DPW doesn't go out and recollect the data until after the billing cycle is over sometimes. So we have this gap in data collection for accurate billing to go out. Unless I'm misunderstanding that. That's what I'm just trying to get to the bottom of.
Well, you're putting more fine of a point on it than it might actually be. So the reality of that disconnect would be at only a very certain time in a quarter that we are not able to read. So our equipment reads, it could read every single day, multiple times a day, because it's collected as the vehicle drives around. But yes, Pam notices any consistencies or changes or increases and notifies the customer. And when that,
But only quarterly.
well, and when that is done, we're notifying the customer, hey, we prorated this bill and we need to come and change your meter or work on it or whatever. Get in the space and look at it. Now, when you say there are times that there might be similar bills month after month after month or quarter after quarter, if it's a person that isn't exceeding the minimum standard that we use, their bill's going to be the same every quarter. Because if they're using less than 8,000 gallons, let's say in a quarter, every single quarter, and our average or minimum is 8,000, their bill's going to be the same each quarter.
They wouldn't have been complaining if their water usage was that low. That's
Well,
certainly not the type of hypothetical I'm getting at, but I understand that could be one of those circumstances. It's just, I'm just trying to figure out what there's any level of truth to in some of the issues that have been raised. We're spending a lot of time discussing our water and sewer rates lately and improvements to the system. And there's just been a lot of water and sewer issues lately. And I happened to read that. And 5 minutes later, I decided to go to lunch and caught Brian in the parking lot and I just asked him about it. And I'm going, wait a minute. So we do prorate in certain circumstances? And he's going, I don't know what they do. He goes, I just collect the data and send it. So I wanted to ask.
But again, we spend a lot of time. Anybody that complains to us gets the item tracked down. We do, and as you know, many of our meters read, or you can read it hourly, the usage.
Oh yes. Yep.
But there are still some in the system that are the old style that haven't been replaced yet, that have just the dial, and the read is not as accurate or able to be broken down. But we still know, based on history, if their usage is up. So I tend to hear from the same few people, and then when investigated, those same people have had a certain series of problems over and over and over. So.
Sure, and I'm not saying every complaint we receive is accurate, deserves to be looked into. I think there might be some truth to some of them, and I'm just trying to understand the situation better, because I feel like as much as I think I understand our water system, there's still always quite a few things I realize I do not, and I'm just trying to understand it better, because I was under the impression that our water meters provided an alert when there was a leak, when there was very heavy water usage, and that just isn't true, which I just learned. There is no alert. There's only DPW collects data once a quarter. That data gets collected by the village staff, and when the village staff reviews it, if they even happen to notice it, then they may alert the customer. But I was, for some reason, under the impression that our water meters with this data collection tool was going to create some sort of alert. And I now don't even understand why I had that impression. So
I've never heard of that.
it was something I was pretty sure was told to us when we were getting these new water
when we
meters, that because of the way the data tracking is going to be set up, the village staff will receive an alert and they will contact you if there is a leak. I personally have had our business contacted mid-quarter to let us know we had a leak because our water usage was way up. This was probably because they were also checking, because we had leaks the previous 2 quarters and received over $3,000 and $4,000 water bills for those quarters. So they probably were just checking on our usage. But what I'm getting at is they happen to be checking mid-quarter. We got an alert, which fed this false sense of there's an alert. They noticed and they told us. That's what I'm saying. Is and this was years ago, but I'm just mentioning for some reason, I do believe council was given the impression when we switched to these new meters, there would be an alert when there was massive leaks. There isn't an alert. And more often than not, if you're going to have a leak, which is going to lead to an incredibly excessive bill, you're not going to be informed until you receive your bill. Or maybe just days prior to receiving your bill, which is a little late. I'm a little disappointed with that. Not that there's anything that's wrong with the village staff or the job that we're doing. I'm disappointed in the water meters themselves, and for some reason, the impression we were given about how they function. So I understand that that's just a shortcoming of the meter, but also I just want to clarify these things because I wouldn't be surprised if some of the other council members have been here since we got those new water meters that we were told they gave you an alert for the leak, which it's been 10 years and I just found out that's not true.
Well, and what may be the case is if there is an erroneous high water read or a very low water read or a consistent water read, we would get notice through the software. I will check into that. That might be the kind of alert that we would expect and we get. But the meters themselves aren't going beep, beep,
Right. When all of a sudden you've used, excessive amounts, way beyond the normal usage. That's kind of what I'm getting at is it's unfortunate with how expensive our water is, and we bill on a quarterly basis, and there's no one. I don't expect we have an employee that's sitting there constantly refreshing the data. That's ridiculous. You would expect that the system would have some sort of alert built into it where you would set some sort of threshold, and when that threshold is exceeded, there is an alert sent to the user so that they can then do something about it. Because if I get a leak in the second day of a quarter and I don't find out till the end of that quarter, I mean, we're talking multi-$1,000 bills that are delivered to the water customer, and I don't like that at all. I just feel like that's something that we should certainly be able to find some sort of resolution for. So hence me asking about the water meter reading, how that all works. I know I just took a bunch of time, so I apologize, but go ahead.
Is our data collector out of service still, or has it been fixed?
Back. It was a very quick turnaround. It was under warranty. It came back right away.
Good.
And he mentioned that they have an additional one they call a belt clip one. So they were never without one.
Right.
Move down to DPW report.
Yeah, DPW report. I just had a quick question. We seem to all be in a nitpicky mood tonight. I noticed, and maybe this is just because, but on major streets and local streets, we've got 4 hours for salt spreaders. In major streets, we've got 2 salt spreaders charging 2 hours each, and then the same 2 salt spreaders charging 2 hours each on local streets. I'm just wondering, what are we spreading salt on?
We're probably maintaining them, and the work is being done by the staff, and that's where it's being assigned.
Dust control on the streets that are.
No,
Not
we bring in someone to
Okay.
spray chloride for that.
Oh.
Although that could be something we did, because I know we have our own chloride system, so I can check into it and find out.
Anybody else on DPW report? We
I just have one comment that I just was gonna let you all know. It mentions new NPDES permit requirements due to the chloride and sulfate rules or in the implementation plan. I'm just gonna just shoot out a link to you guys in case you were interested and wanted to read more about it.
How much of an undertaking do you think that is for a facility of our size?
It's just taking some extra samples for now.
Okay.
If the results are of concern, then our permit section would do a review to determine if there is a reasonable potential to exceed water quality values. And if that was the case, then there would be permit limits that would go into effect. But we're talking 5 years down the road at least. So this permit cycle is just monitoring and collecting that data.
For outgoing water.
Yep, effluent.
Anybody else on wastewater treatment report? Thank you, Mindy.
Yep.
Each report.
Is it just me or did it just end up in there twice? Is it? I see it's 6-1 through 7-1, and then 2 pages before that is 6-1 through 7-1. Is it the same report twice, or am I misreading it? Yeah.
Right, yeah. It's not the same. There's 2 versions.
One's the administrative and one's patrol. The administrative will have more information. The patrol one is typically shorter.
I don't know, when I look at the first 2 pages of both, they're line for line the same, I thought. Yeah. What am I missing? No, you're right. Okay, yeah, they're the first 2 pages of them are line for line the same. Now there is additional pages, but both of them begin page 1 of 2 pages, 1 of 2 and 2 of 2, and the 1 of 2 and 2 of 2 are identical. But I'm just saying, it looked to me like somebody accidentally added the PDF twice, or unless I was going to do a side-by-side comparison of every line, what was different.
Although the totals are different.
They should be the 2 separate reporting areas. Like on mine, one is like, my second page is blank. And in my other one,
Correct.
there's a lot more headings.
And so what do we use the first one for?
Well, one is the administrative, the big report has every single thing that we do put together. Okay, all right. And then the smaller one is actually just patrol services, things that affect basically just the township and village compared to side-by-side stuff.
Sure.
Some stuff, like you recall, last year was, and that's why the second report was created, because it was a concern, well, you guys spend a lot of time at the police department writing reports, and then that time counts towards the village, and we don't do report writing in the township. So the numbers were kind of up and down.
They can
So
write
we
in their
tried to-
vehicle on that side of the parking lot, and then it's
That's true. So, but that's why we created the separate reports. One is actually just all patrol stuff that affects both communities, so they can actually try to get a clearer side-by-side comparisons of police services versus the administrative stuff.
understood. I like the second report much better because it tells me all the things that I was always curious about. So I do like it better. But I understand the other one is the more concise one that's made for consumption for
Correct.
other entities as well. Okay. That clarifies. I appreciate it, Chief. Thank you.
The one thing I will point out on the crash location report portion, although named differently along there, the majority of that is happening along Van Dyke. Just because we call it in North Main, South Main, that's all still M53. There's a lot of stuff along M53
Yeah,
that
this
we're
is-
having issues with.
This is something new we started sending to you guys.
Yeah.
Got this new form or crash reports we're now sending that to you guys, as well as the township.
Anybody else on police report? DD Director's report.
Too long. Very detailed, Angela. Thank you.
Financial position report. Clerk treasurer report. Construction code authority report.
I'm sorry, before we move on, Randy, do you feel like you covered everything you wanted to cover? I know you got to speak a little bit about it ahead of time. I just want to make sure you didn't have anything else you wanted to.
I was just starting to pull it up to see if there was one thing that I should have mentioned that the only thing I did not write about too, and just to update everybody, that Wayne did not get his petition in, so there's that empty seat for the ballot itself. So I think he intends to possibly run, but there's options, whether it's a write-in or council appoints, it has to appoint. So that's where it stood at about 3:00 today, that there were only 3 petitions that were submitted.
Can I ask you then about the police fund? I'm really interested in that one. I know
I wanted to talk about.
you kind of mentioned that one before, and that's kind of a big thing for us to not have to worry about that deficit planning anymore. So
I did a sample without putting in the software, because once I put it in the software, I can't eliminate it. But I would like to do that. I think it's a great tracking. I did verify with Treasury that I would do like a one-time journal entry showing what the village contributes, then what we receive from the township as the revenue stream. And then there would be multiple departments. The 207 is called public safety, so would be police department. If you ever had a fire department where you were responsible for the financing, that could be a separate department. But I will do their cars separately, so then we take all of the cost of the cars right out of the equipment fund. The money that fuels that equipment fund is just the rentals that are paid by the use of the DPW staff. So if you want to give me the verbal go ahead, I'll prepare all that and put it on the next council meeting, that you can do a motion to do a budget amendment to approve all those numbers. And then also I did the homecoming as a separate line item in the general fund, so we could actually track the expenses, which, you know, Pam was very great today. There was a lot of invoices and she said, are we keeping track of these? And I said, well, we have what you did from July 1st to date. We can pull from the report. Otherwise we have to look in AP. So we did, and they have spent just under 20,000. So sent out an email and included
budget.
their budget's 23,471 is what's in the bank account. So I sent a letter out to Mr. Zatz, who's been bringing everything to us, and CC both Dale and Tim, so that they were aware that I notified Mr. Zatz, you have like 3,000 left. You know, like, this is what we paid out. What do you still owe? So he's coming in tomorrow for actual invoices that he gave us. I don't know why he didn't keep a copy, but from now on, Pam will make him one if he doesn't have one readily available. So we're making sure that they stay within budget as well. So that doesn't have a budget for it. So we'll make that in the first amendments, because that was a GL number I created. So I would like, I would hope that council would want me to try that and do the police department.
Oh, I like the idea, but can I just say that because we were already told, hey, this is fine, it'll work, and then our auditor told us it's fine and it'll work, and then we find out it's not, and then it's a whole issue, and then our auditor gave us not great solutions. I like your solution, but I just feel like it would be fair to this council, given the situation. Can we put it on open discussion? We go over it, you explain the numbers, you explain the process, we get a chance to absorb it. I don't like the idea, or rather the pressure of, well, here's a solution and we don't really fully understand it yet, and we say okay again, and then we end up in the same situation again. So
which really, my report wouldn't normally be discussed. It's consent agenda. You should have just approved. So we might want to separate the reports so you guys can discuss away. But with that being said, I agree with you. That was just like a placemaker in my report to say, hey, I would like you to consider, and I can do some mock information. And obviously this audit year that's coming up, we won't be able to, like, we're going to have a deficit.
yeah, it's too late to do anything about it this time. I understand.
But then moving forward, I don't think you will, because my rough numbers look like that covers the way it should be, so.
Sure, and I think that was an important thing that should be an agenda item in the future, or better yet, given what you're proposing. Glad that we talked about it now, because it shouldn't end up an agenda item, it should be an open discussion. You could prepare it that way, but that's a good resolution to a very annoying problem that could potentially, cost us money and go on for years, which we thought we were doing things to save money. So I like the plan. I'm glad that you brought it up and mentioned it to us in your report, and now we can put it on in the future.
Construction Code Authority report. EMS report. We have no further discussion. I think this is the longest consent agenda /
I think this is a record.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Councilmember Snyder, supported by President Pro Tem Stepler, to approve the consent agenda as presented with noted changes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously by all council members present. Looks like everybody left, but now's the time for public comment for any agenda item. Do we have any public comment tonight? Being none. Agenda item number 1, reappointment of Steve Schneider to the Planning Commission. So, as a recap from last meeting, we realized that several Planning Commission members' terms had expired at the special Planning Commission meeting to reelect officers last Thursday. Even though it's not a necessary step, the Planning Commission did renominate Steve Schneider to be appointed to the Planning Commission. It is a presidential appointment. I'm going to appoint Steve Schneider to the Planning Commission with a term end date of 3/31/29, and would ask for a motion of ratification from council.
I'll make the motion that was there a comment? Okay. I'll make the motion that we ratify the appointment by President Dyke of Steve Schneider Sr. to Planning Commission until 3/31/29.
You beat me to it because I have to say it before you do that. So I have a conflict of interest. I will abstain. Go ahead. Sorry.
Who supported
That motion. I just made the motion, so we need support still, right?
We have it by Mr. Mount.
Okay.
Motion to ratify the appointment of the presidential appointment of Steve Schneider to the Planning Commission with a expiration, a term date of 3/31/29. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously with 1 abstain. Motion passes unanimously by all council members present with 1 abstain.
It's the very definition of not unanimous. So
Right.
Oh, sorry. My bad. Hey, if I don't have one slip up meeting for you to correct, and then you wouldn't feel important.
I would be asleep.
Agenda item number 2, street closure homecoming. Angela, you want to present? Thank you for staying so long.
Anytime. Didn't want to miss this record-breaking event.
We're gonna try and break it tomorrow night.
No, thank you. So homecoming, the DDA is going to host a cornhole tournament in the, I guess we still affectionately refer to it as the Francis lot, South Bristol Street lot. I would like to close East Mill Street just to kind of mitigate some of the driving through of that parking from 5 to 8 p.m. on August 15th.
You like to Bristol, correct?
Yes, yep.
I mean, and that's a common area that you close every time you've had an event. Whenever you had Jeep night and other car shows and lots of different things, whenever you have an event right there, it's a good one to close, especially since it's one way anyways.
And also since people don't use it as a one-way,
That's exactly what
yeah, people do not.
people
use
go
it as
both
one.
ways and it,
very familiar. Yeah.
I'll make the motion that we approve the closing of East Mill Street on Saturday, August 15th from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. as requested.
Support.
Motion by President Pro Tem Steffler, supported by Councilmember Snyder, to close Mill Street as stated on the record. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes by all council members present. Unanimous.
I just want to thank the DDA for participating in the homecoming and helping out with it. It's nice that you guys are helping to add to the events that they have.
Absolutely.
Agenda item number 3, Street Closer Heritage Festival.
I just noticed something that's wrong with this, so it's right on the map. It's wrong on the memo. It's the exact same street closings as last year. The only part that's wrong on the memo is Saturday, September 19th from 6:30 to 4. That should be West St. Clair to Branch. Closes half an hour earlier, and that's just so that our volunteers who are bringing cars to the car show can park there before they go to registration.
So it's not East St. Clair
No, it's
to Main Street in Bristol. It's West St. Clair to Branch.
Yes. And it's all listed on the map, and the map is correct. And I do have the MDOT approval, which I forgot to put in your packet, but we do have that.
What is the time frame for your MDOT closure?
7 to 4. We're ending the car show. I met with Sergeant Repshis on Thursday, and we went through all of this. We're ending the car show half an hour earlier. Usually we say 3:30, everybody must be off Van Dyke by 4. We have had stragglers in the past, so this year we're ending it at 3, and it says everybody has to be off by 3:30, otherwise they're going to be towed. So hopefully we can get it.
Starts last year down
Yes.
in the south end also.
Mm-hmm.
And just so you're aware, heading north on Van Dyke as they're leaving that area because there's still no traffic anymore, that is now their drag race burnout spot. So, I mean, I literally got to sit there for an hour on my front porch with my boys and just watch car after car just do burnouts down Van Dyke because they could, because there's no traffic.
I'm gonna watch
Just so you're aware,
this
Chief.
year.
I'll be more than happy to put a car down there.
I thought you might want to, so.
To participate.
In a way.
To participate in the way is right.
Interesting race.
Any other questions from council? Do we have a motion?
I will make the motion that we approve the road closure request for the annual Elmont Heritage Festival and Classic Car Show beginning on Friday, September 18th, 2026 from 4 p.m. through Sunday, September 21st, 2026 at noon for East Zone Street to Main Street to Bristol and Mill Street for Main Street to Bristol. Did you want these as separate motions or one motion?
I think one should suffice.
I think you need to suffice as one.
Okay, and then Saturday, September 19th, 2026 from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. And on Saturday, September 19th, 2026 from 6:30 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Support.
Supported. Motion by Councilmember Snyder, supported by Councilmember Miller to approve the DDA Heritage Festival road closures as stated on the record. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously by all council members present. Agenda item number 4, parking lot usage request.
We are planning on having the entertainment tent in the same location as we did last year. Ownership has since changed of that lot, so I am requesting that Village Council allow us to use that same south north. What are we calling it? The
It's-
Francis lot.
It is still the same lot. Just so we're clear, when you asked for permission to use it last year, it was still owned by Mr. Francis.
Yes.
But by the time you held the event, it was
It
owned
was
by
owned
the
by
village.
council, correct.
So the village owned it when it took place there last year. It's in the exact same spot that it has been in the last 2 years. So it's the same place, but you're placing it along the southwest corner of that lot, along the fence line, in the same spot as it was last year.
Correct. Correct.
Right,
Yes.
essentially
Exact
placed
same spot.
about between the old theater and the old clinic building.
I'll make the motion that we allow the Alent DDA to utilize the referenced parking lot on Wednesday, September 16th through Monday, September 21st, 2026.
Support.
Motion, by President Pro Tem Stuffler, supported by our Councilmember Snyder to approve the parking lot usage for the DDA during the Heritage Festival as stated on the record. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously by all council members present. Social District Expansion Request 2026 Heritage Festival.
This is also the same thing we did last year. It's the same map. I just changed the dates. We are just requesting that we encompass the beer tent into the social district in the evenings, which is the main concern, is how the permit is written for the license for the beer tent. Even though they won't be allowed to bring drinks in or out, if it's in a social district boundary, they have to get a specific license or permit. Is that correct? Or has to be noted?
If it's within the confines of a social district or within the direct vicinity of the district, the Liquor Control Commission, for the specific type of special event license that they are applying for, needs information on that, and then also subsequent approval from the municipality. So the social district itself has to be expanded, and then when the applicant applies, they have to indicate the social district and that it has been approved by the municipality. It's just part of it if that municipality has a social district. So they just watch over carefully how those two things are going to work. Which is, by the way, no different of how it has worked the last few times that we have done this. Well, every year that since we have had a social district, how it has worked for the entertainment tent. So it's rather a rote process at this point.
But it's not really expanding the social district itself. It's boundaried next to it, correct? Because it
Right,
didn't.
well, go ahead, sir.
Well, the original creation of the social district was more than just us deciding. We had to get approval from the state and everything else.
Sure, but you get to pick the boundaries, right? It's you're the applicant. You're picking the boundaries. We are in control of the boundaries. Yes, we needed state approval for the entire concept. You're correct, but we are expanding temporarily for a special event the boundaries of that social district, because on the average days of the year where we have a social district, it is not encompassing of those two buildings where the beer tent
Well,
is.
the social, I understand what you're saying. We're increasing the commons area. We're expanding the commons areas, not the orange social district boundary that was approved by village. The thick orange border on the map is the social district that village council approved. However, you can't expand outside of that, the commons area, like crossing streets, unless the roads are closed and
Which they will be.
Correct.
So I guess my question is so the tent doesn't currently sit, or it won't sit in this furthest left little box, or is that where it's gonna sit?
It is in that left little box. That
Yeah.
that is where it's going to sit. That's the two buildings between which it
Yeah.
sits. Yeah. So it's intentionally created so that it does sit inside of it. Number one. Number two. So if you see the Van Dyke entrance between the two of them, that always gets snow fenced off, and that there's usually food vendors and stuff like that, and people also have their drinks there as well. And it's one of the reasons Liquor Control Commission's going, well, if you have people moving around with alcohol out in the open, how are you confining it? Is it within a social district? So these two things kind of go hand in hand. So that way, nobody within either of those two black boxes is in trouble for an open intox if they have it, because they're within the confines of the social district, which we've approved.
That's fine.
Not 100%, no, but that's okay.
I had a separate question. So I know in the past years, we usually get a lot of participation from people bringing their cars. And I know based on the social district map with the orange bars, we usually have cars parked to the south on M53 past the orange line and north, I know past Dollar General. So are we saying that, you know, participants of the Heritage Festival can't, you know, bring beverages back to their cars that might be located outside the social district boundaries? And are we going to be liable for anything that might happen if people are bringing drinks outside that boundary?
So you're asking if somebody uses an alcoholic beverage in a way that is not legal, that is regularly posted, that they have been informed. I mean, they're responsible. The vendor is responsible for the service of it to them. As soon as that's in their possession, they're responsible for following all state laws, federal laws, local ordinances. So if they want to partake in the social district, certainly taking, an alcoholic beverage to your vehicle while it is open is not legal inside or outside of the social district. So it's not, we certainly as the village do not take on liability for if they decide to go to their vehicle with an open intoxicant. Certainly we do not. We haven't authorized that or encouraged it. And also keep in mind, during the social district portion of it, for at least the beer tent's concern, which is what the request is about, what that we were talking about previously, it's within those two black boxes. But if you're saying as to the time period of the entire expansion of it during the Heritage Festival when Van Dyke is closed, if your question is can they, no matter where they're parked, inside or outside of it, take the open intoxicant to their vehicle? No. And that's not really been a concern the last couple of years that we've done this. But again, if you were to go into the parking lot behind Mikey Senior Victors and Roots, you will find numerous empty containers. So I don't know that that's necessarily something that the social district is causing or increasing or not increasing. I mean, we all know it does happen to some level, but is it your concern that it's likely to increase it, or just the potential liability for it?
I think they misunderstood the question.
You're saying classic cars that are
Going back
parked
to your
north or
parked
south of the
car
boundary,
show car that are north and south of the boundary.
can they still walk, like,
Technically, no.
technically, no.
No. If
No.
you can't, again, yeah, you cannot leave the
Social
boundary. And that's why we have all of the signs clearly posting that you can't leave the boundary.
Might be a good reminder for all participants to just post, this is the
Yes.
approved social district.
What would you like format to see that in? I don't disagree.
I do have a map that I've put out and sent to all the participants the last couple of years. It's kind of confusing. It's this overlaid with the locations map so that the social district boundary is on there, and it's labeled that, you're have to, if you want to utilize the social district, you have to stay within the orange boundary.
Could we maybe get the announcer to mention it once or twice as well?
Absolutely.
I think that's a good idea.
Because, I mean, they're already yelling at everybody anyways. Why not loudly announce, don't go back to your vehicle with your social district drink?
It's not the participants as much as the spectators either.
Sure.
I buy a beer at Mikey's or Roots or wherever, and I decide I'm going to walk with my cup. I'm going to walk and go look at cars. Do I stop looking at cars when I reach this imaginary line at School Street that I can't see, that's not on the ground, where there's no police officer to handcuff me as I walk past? No, I keep walking. I go look at cars. If my beer is finished, it's finished. If it's not, I keep drinking.
You hear all this, Chief?
Hope he doesn't walk by.
Yeah. I mean, that's the reality. You're going to have how many hundred people down there in the street walking up and down doing all this. The signs aren't in the middle of Van M53 for them to see. They're not on the corner of School Street by the Dollar General. It's just the reality, though. There is an invisible boundary there that they're going to walk past. Unless you have somebody stationed there to yell at them.
Do you want to volunteer to yell?
No. I'll probably be working traffic.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
All right, we'll make the motion that we approve the request to expand the social district from Friday, September 18th, 2026 at 4 p.m. through Saturday, September 19th, 2026 at 11 p.m. as presented.
Support.
Motion by Councilmember Schneider, supported by Councilmember Miller to expand the social district for the Heritage Festival as stated on the record. All those in favor say aye.
I
All those opposed, same sign.
Thanks.
Motion passes.
Did you say that?
I did.
Thank
Agenda
you.
item number 6, the resolution for capital improvement bonds. Who's taking this one?
I can start out, and if there's any additional, maybe Randy. As you know, we have a couple of large projects coming up. We want to put ourselves in the right position financially for covering the expenses of those projects. We need, one of those opportunities would be to take out a tax exempt bond on behalf of the village for the match money for the St. Clair Street project and for the construction of the DPW building. This bond is designed for just that. It's listed as possible uses of the revenue. It goes through the detail that the village would authorize the issuance of a capital improvement bond at $2.5 million. It indicates that the bond would be secured with a pledge from the village to pay it back, establishes a debt retirement and construction fund to move the money back and forth. The bonds would be sold at a competitive sale. They will be tax exempt bonds. And it authorizes the officers who would have the final signature on the final document. It is not selling the bonds, it's prepping us to go forward and do just that if we need or decide that we want to. Now, I'm at some point in the near future, I will be providing you a financial breakdown of what does our current fund balances look like? What is our cost anticipation on these projects? Should we use our cash in bank or should we go out and bond? Almost like the construction project is lining up, bond prices have been slowly clicking down since we started this discussion. So the interest rate for our bond is lower than it was 2 weeks ago, and that is lower than it was 2 weeks before that. So things are going in the right direction to secure a bond. And I don't know if there's anything else to say about it.
Is there a reason why we're doing this now before we've had a chance to discuss our options?
Process of acquiring the bond. As you know, a meeting or so ago, we approved a resolution so that we could post it and make the world aware that we may look to bond. There's a timeline that is pretty extensive to get through the process. The legal team that needs to put this together and get it out for us with the bond includes a construction schedule and our efforts that we do to move forward with the project. I don't know if it actually has a construction schedule, but it has a link to when we're doing it, when we plan to spend the money and so on. So, yeah, the reason we're doing it now is it's just part of the process to prepare for getting the loan.
Prepared this.
The bond would have been prepared by Miller Canfield.
So the only reason why I don't know if you're aware of this, and I think it kind of speaks to what Mindy was just asking. We have an awful lot right now of information we don't have. We don't know how much of first of all, we haven't seen our capital improvement plan in a long time. We don't know what's completed on it, what's not completed on it. We don't know what projects on it still need to be completed and what those costs are going to be. We don't know what's setting our water sewer rates at. We don't know a lot of stuff. And so we also still don't know, like we discussed previously, how funding is going to work. Are we going to pay cash? Are we going to bond? Are we going to do some hybrid? We don't know where we're going with any of that just yet. And sections 12 and 13 of this agreement make this our last vote on this topic for moving forward on this. Section 13 authorizes the officer, whether that's going to be the president, clerk treasurer, or the village manager, individually to go award the sale without any further authorization or approval of this village council. So just like it is making the decision now with its current verbiage. I'm not sure everyone here took it that way or understood it to mean that, but that's what it means. And that is bothersome to me. If there were things that were more defined here, a lot of things were more defined, I'd feel more comfortable extending it on that rate. But there's a big change, not only in the financial information we're being provided, gaps in knowledge on a lot of things we're considering, 2 huge projects that we still don't know how we're funding. So to agree to this bond like this, it feels a little cart before the horse. I understand, and I could have a great appreciation for the explanation you gave the last time that we approached this. There is a lengthy process in going out to bond, and I'm not looking to stall that process. But it went, at least to the phrasing of this packet, isn't the process that we discussed last time, where we had to do all these things, and we've done most of them, right? We gave our notice. The 45 days on that notice was up, on the 18th, I think?
Yeah.
Right. So 45 days of notice is up. Once we do this, it goes out to bid, and whoever our authorized officer is under this contract, whether that's the president, the clerk treasurer, or the village manager, has the ability and has been instructed to and has been given the authority to just go forward. The only guardrails at that point is it's a $2.5 million ceiling, $2.5 million ceiling with a 6% interest ceiling and a par floor. Those are pretty wide parameters. Shouldn't the council discuss how they want to and what they want to and which portions of the bond we actually want to use for which funding project? It's problematic as presented. I'm not opposed to the concept of the bond. I'm opposed to a $2.5 million bond for a 20-year share that I don't know what I'm really signing up for, and I'm not signing up for just yet. That feels a little bit problematic at this point. We have a capital improvement plan that just expired. We need to go through it again. We just have a lot to figure out, and I don't know how to approach this concept of the bond when it doesn't sound like we as a council would be voting on it again as to how that bond is going to function.
So, let me begin to address that, if I may. Correct me if I'm wrong, Randy, but if they approve it tonight, we have the opportunity to go for the bond and sell it. We don't have to. Okay, so.
Financial advisor is the part that's handling that, where Miller Canfield does the legal contract. And on a bond, only the village clerk, well, the treasurer is the one that signs it along with the president. Manager does not sign that kind of document.
So whose discretion is it how much we borrow and who we award it to when we do it?
The financial advisor that you hired is the one that decides all of that.
They decide how much we borrow?
No, we've agreed to go up to $2.5 million.
In $5,000 increments. So who decides how much of the 2.5?
The financial advisor does all that work for you.
Well,
But they advise. See what I'm getting at?
That is their job, what you hire them for. You don't
No.
just determine that. I never have. I've done 8 bonds. Never was involved in that at all. They do a perspective based on all the information that they ask from the village. And then they put that perspective out there for those to bond,
so.
I think we're entirely missing the point that.
Question, we will determine, let's say we have $10 million in the bank and we decide that, hey, we only want to bond $1 million or $1.5 million or $500,000 towards these projects going forward. That is yet to be determined, but we are approved, like let's say buying a home, we're approved up to $2.5 million. It matches our revenues. It has all been looked at by the financial advisors and the bond council. Now to go back to what you're saying, we've had a CIP that's been in place for 10 years. What's done or not done on that is irrelevant to this at the moment. We have a project that was scheduled to be done in 1975 that we are now queued up to move forward on and bid. That is the project we are focused on. Whatever's on the CIP will come later, even if it was scheduled 10 years ago. This project is the oldest thing out there, other than some actual maybe water lines.
I disagree.
I disagree though. I disagree with what you just said.
I disagree because you're saying anything on the CIP it doesn't matter.
You said it's irrelevant, and I just want to take you back to last week when we were discussing. Hold on, take you back to last week when we were discussing water sewer rates, and we're going, maybe we should change the rates, maybe we shouldn't. How much have we saved? We don't know how much we've saved versus how much we need to spend. Are we going to bond out? Are we going to use a little? Are we going to hybrid? There is a complete lack of us being able to do our fiduciary responsibility and being fiscally responsible with knowing how we're going to spend the taxpayer funds. If we have this savings account and we don't know what we're spending on the CIP projects, we talked about maybe using this bond to do some of that, maybe not. I mean, right off the bat, I don't like that idea because what did we save all that for if we're going to bond it out and now charge them interest on it for the next 20 years? I don't love that idea, but I also don't know what we can afford and what we can't afford. So to say that the remainder of what is or is not on the CIP that we haven't even seen is irrelevant, I disagree because we just talked about it 2 weeks ago as looking at the totality of the circumstances and making an informed decision based off of new and relevant data. And instead, you are asking us to give you the ability to go and borrow $2.5 million over 20 years at a 6% interest rate on only one project when we don't know what the other projects are.
And we don't know the cost of this project.
But you're mixing two things.
Okay?
This project. We have a financial analyst that's looked at our finances the way they are today, and they are saying you have the ability to cover a $2.5 million bond at 6% interest over the next 20 years.
For this project and this project alone?
For this project.
And this project alone?
Yeah.
For these two.
These two
projects.
Right.
I apologize. But the reason I guess I'm trying to narrow the scope on that is to clarify, because when we talked about it 2 weeks ago, we talked about it more broadly as we may use this bond to also fund additional projects. Or was that my misunderstanding where you were saying we might take out a different and additional bond to fund those additional ones?
No, what I said was you have your CIP projects that exist. Most of them are linked to this project. So moving forward, we'll see what our bids come in at so we know how much money we will need for the St. Clair Street project. And then we can decide, do we spend the bond money on the St. Clair Street project and then use our reserves to do those ancillary things that are in that 10-year-old CIP? Or do we set up a process to do those over 10 years and try to use more of our reserves to pay for those things, or pay for the St. Clair Street project now? You have, it is all coming to a head now to make all of those things happen or not happen. And the fiduciary side of it, which I understand, is why we're paying a financial analyst to tell us whether or not we can do it.
I don't have any discrepancy or concern about the ability of Miller Canfield to do their job, and I know they are overqualified for this. I fully understand that. What is consistently getting missed in translation here, missing the point, is they're reviewing financial data to tell us what we can borrow to cover these specific projects, and we're going, but there's a whole bunch of other data that we don't even currently have that we're trying to consider. And so when you say, when I'm asking it, whose discretion is it how much we're going to borrow, you're telling us not us.
No, what I'm saying is they've already established that we can borrow this amount.
Uh-huh.
We're pre-approved for this amount. We will decide down the road where we're going to spend. The bond money has to be spent on the project only, the St. Clair Street or the new DPW building. It can't be used around town for other projects.
See, you said we will, and who do you mean we when you say we?
The council.
Section 12 does not say that. Section 12 of this agreement says that the officer sets the rates, the prices, the maturities, the principal amounts, and the issuance dates. That means that it is not up to us.
So the officer would be the president and your clerk that you would direct at some point to make that final decision on the document.
Except we are creating a contractually binding document that gives them the authority to do that without our consent. And I'm not saying that I don't trust these two. I'm saying, I feel like I've made my point here, and it should be clear enough exactly what I'm trying to say. It is the lack of information that we have on the totality of the circumstances, where if we didn't have all that going on, then I would be comfortable with this situation. But it seems as though you are indicating that you are comfortable moving forward with this bond for this financing, and when we get to these other projects, get an updated CIP plan, figure out whatever else is going on, whatever hasn't been completed in the last 10 years, we can then decide how much we want to spend of that bond at that point. But you
said we can't spend it on anything else but these two projects.
whether or not we want to use our cash reserves or not, how much of it we want to use.
Right.
But that's what I'm kind of getting at, is it's kind of setting this part almost in stone, and then maybe we do or do not do the other projects that we have been planning for quite a period of time. Dale, I think you mentioned it as we have these projects that are sitting here for the last 10 years, and maybe we're not going to do them, and maybe you plan on doing them again over the next 10 years. Well, then what do we just plan on doing them for the last 10 years for, to just say again for the next 10 years? It is making it very difficult to feel like I know what I'm doing in this plan.
Well, I am confused because I thought the goal was to do the projects that when I interviewed here, the day we first talked, was put through a major construction project and build a DPW building. And now here we are at the precipice.
Precipice.
Yeah, that's the word. And we're saying, hey, we didn't know we were gonna have to get money to do
Well,
this.
I mean, I kind of agree with that statement because both of these projects have been sold to us with the facts that we do have adequate fund balances to cover the majority, if not all of these, when we started the planning. So, yeah, I mean, you're kind of right. Like, we have all along been thinking we were going to use cash in hand for these projects. It's only at the 11th hour that we're being advised to take out a $2.5 million bond to do them. I think that's where my hackles are up a little bit.
And I'm not even necessarily opposed to, first of all, I want to do the projects and I'm not opposed to doing the projects. I'm more concerned about how we are funding these projects and the additional projects. I don't look at it and I just want to do these two, and I am going to remain blind or oblivious to the other ones that also need to be done. I'm looking at the totality of the fiscal picture and going, okay, how am I going to pay for all of them? And if I can't, which ones am I not going to pay for? And for the ones that I am going to pay for, which ones am I going to use the cash reserves for? And I'm going to minimize the interest effect to the residents. And I am at this moment incapable of knowing the answer to any of that. And that's the part that makes me uncomfortable. I want to move forward with the projects, and I do want to move forward with bonding. I'm uncomfortable with bonding at this stage with the level of information that I have, not knowing how I'm going to use the money or how much of it I'm going to use, because I don't know what I'm going to use in my cash reserves, because I don't know what else I need to do and what it's going to cost. That's my level of uncomfortability.
So you've said that. Let me ask you, did you have that list of projects that you were concerned about top of mind 2 months ago?
Did I have it 2 months ago? I've been asking to see a capital improvement plan for months and haven't been able to see it.
So my point is, this has been the focus of the work. The CIP running out and the list of things on it is a very relatively new item to me especially. So the fact that we're at this juncture is shocking to me that we're not prepared for this very eventuality.
I want to clarify. It's not in any way a criticism of you, Dale, or your work on this project, or your work on this project, or the totality of where you're at. And I can certainly understand feeling the way that you would about what you're just saying. We've known about this project. We've discussed this project. We discussed bonding, but I don't think all of us became as acutely aware of it until we started discussing water and sewer rates and the savings that we have, and our lack of understanding of what we have completed and haven't completed. I mean, and that kind of brought to the surface a lot of that concern at the same time that we were also discussing the three potential ways of doing it: using cash savings, using bond funding, doing a hybrid of both, and then not knowing where we're at on that, and to then 2 weeks later go, we're going to go for the bond, we still not knowing where we actually stand. And I realize we have not been for the last 12 months going, we got to know where we're at on the CIP and all those other things before we make a decision. You're right. And I can understand how that certainly would appear frustrating and unfair to throw that at you at the last minute when we're applying for the bond, because you're going, this has been the goal. This has been in focus this whole time. And here we are on the precipice of actually pulling the trigger on it. And now we're throwing up this roadblock. I'm trying to advocate for the benefit of the constituents and going, I know what I'm doing, and I can at least defend the decisions that I'm making, rather than going, I was absent the information to fully understand what I was doing at the time, and I didn't know, and I'm turning that over to Miller Canfield, and I'm turning that over to these other experts who understand what we were capable of borrowing with just these two projects in mind. And I had to ignore the existence of the other projects at the time that I made that because I didn't have the information. Do you see what I'm getting at? I'm trying to square that circle.
Well, I get that. And again, those other projects came up in our May discussion about the budget. So it's a new wrinkle that I feel like we'll have lots of progress to be able to make on those, on that list in the CIP. I've already talked about getting a rate analysis and a new CIP done with rural water when I was at the conference last week. So those things are all, again, moving, but those parts didn't get moving until May versus this that's been moving for over a year.
So I do have a question, a process question. So it looks like if we look at this schedule which is more detailed than our road project, by the way. There's a due diligence check-in August 10th. So that'd be after our first council meeting of the month, but before our second council meeting of the month. Actually, their proposed bond publishing notice of sale of the bonds would be on the day of our second village council meeting if we follow this process steps. And there's a TBD in there. But if Tim and Randy as our clerk, or not clerk as our treasurer, are the two decision makers on whether we go forward or not, to me it seems like there's a month of process here that has to happen, whether we start it tonight or we wait for another month and a half. That's going to happen before the next decision point. Why wouldn't, and I'm proposing to the other council members, why wouldn't we say, okay, we're going to start the process. We don't have to use the bond at all, right? What skin are we losing in the game here if we move forward? We're going to pay some fee for MFCI and for Miller Canfield to do work, I'm sure. But other than that, this paperwork's going to have to happen one way or the other. And there's a few steps in here that seem to be more government hurdles than anything, like getting our credit report back, getting our S&P in city conference call. So there's a whole bunch of steps that are going to have to happen along the way to say, yes, they said we were able to borrow the money. Now we're proving that we're able to borrow the money, and we'll have the due diligence call basically between the first and second village council meeting in August. So why wouldn't we just say, okay, well, maybe we don't sell bonds on the 18th because we're going to have a village council meeting and make the final decision at that point. It might get pushed by a few days because they're proposing that it doesn't even go on sale officially for a week after that. If we would choose to do that.
Do you see any point beyond tonight where village council is involved in that step to pull it back?
But that's what I'm proposing is village council at the second meeting on the 18th would be involved in making that call, whether we do or not.
But at what point do we see the information that tells us we need to bond any of this? Like I am very frustrated that we keep getting pushed along this path when we still haven't been shown the financial position and why it's necessary. When do we get to see that information?
I don't know that you're ever going to see it's necessary, because to the point as we do have the cash. The question I think the financial advisor is going to give us is, do we spend all of our own money to do it, or do we borrow somebody else's money to do it? And is that the more correct way to use our money? So we can either run with our bank account close to zero for the next few years, or we can borrow somebody else's money and use it to get these two projects done while we still use our other money to further ourselves along.
Miller Canfield will tell us what we can borrow. They don't tell us what we should borrow. That's our decision to make. There isn't in this current, if we were to adopt the resolution before us, there is not another guardrail, another step in this process where council gets to weigh in. That's my main issue here.
Other than the president and the treasurer.
That's not council though.
Well,
just stick with me on the facts here. That's not council. That is not us deliberating, us voting, us making a decision as an elected body. That is us appointing other authorized individuals to act on behalf of the village without our discretion. That is a distinction that needs to be made. And again, I'm not casting any aspersions towards these two individuals. I'm saying it is no longer a part where we become informed, we deliberate, and we vote and make a decision. And that's where this problem comes from. I think in a little bit of the shock and surprise on our end is because, like you had mentioned, it's a whole process. We have to be prepared to go out. We're not necessarily going to do it. Maybe we are, maybe we aren't. But once we do this, we are. We are. Because who's deciding we aren't?
Well, in an extreme case, if you would think that your clerk treasurer and your president would sign those bonds to move forward without council approval, you're right, council won't be involved again. But if, in fact, we move forward, look at where we're going cost-wise with this project, what the 10-year-old estimate is on the old CIP items, and we weigh how much of a bond we're going to get, then instruct these people to say, oh, we want 1.5 million or 750,000, and then they move forward with the bond in that way. If you're thinking that they're going to do whatever they want, regardless of council's feelings, I guess you're right. Then you shouldn't vote, and you should hold off until all the facts are in front of you definitively.
Your indication that I feel that they're going to go and do it without council's approval, there's nowhere on this schedule or in this that, okay, and to Mindy's point and to Pete's point, second meeting of August, bond council publishes the notice of sale. That means the decision will be made within less than a month's time on what it is. Will, to Mindy's point, will council have the information to know and participate in informing our authorized individuals what we would like to see at that point? Or will they not under this schedule?
So let's look at it a different way. Let's say we move forward, you vote tonight, we get the 2.5 million, which in theory will cover all of our costs related to these two projects that we've been focused on. And then you decide, well, we don't want to have that debt hanging out there, so we'll turn around and pay it off tomorrow with cash in hand before we even start the project. We have that option because we have cash in hand.
It was an excellent hypothetical that didn't answer my question at all.
My point is, I hear what you're saying, and there's no way to go around it that I can see. There's a process. It's a legal process. And it's here in front of you tonight. So either you want to move the thing forward, or you hit the pause button and we adjust our bond schedule down the road after we do the financial review of the potential cost.
When do we need to have the money to match the grant?
Well, we can begin to draw down the grant next month, starting next month.
We have to match to
At
draw
some
it down.
point, I'm not positive because I haven't asked that question, but typically grants are one way or the other. Either they are a reimbursement after you spend the money, or it's they spend the money and you come in at the end with your share. I'm not sure. I haven't asked that question. We haven't drilled down that far with EPA. So
Start by paying cash and then halfway through decide I want a bond now, or you have to know before
Well,
the
you
project
have-
starts.
just the process, the notice to bond is a 45-day thing. And it's published in the paper and so on that you're looking to do this. So, you can change it at any point. It just is more work, and the costs would go up a little bit for the additional work. Maybe it doesn't, because they just charge a flat fee percentage of the bond. And it goes from there.
I'm wondering if we have more time to make it decision and use any cash up front if needed to match to get the grant money. And then, I don't know, a couple months in, half a year in, we figure out all the bond details and the CIP. And at that point, I mean,
At a minimum, even if we don't have the CIP information, we need to have an estimate on, a strong estimate on what both projects are gonna cost, with some kind of documentation on what it's gonna cost. Anytime I've approved a bond, I've known how much percentage against our debt rate with the state that's gonna be. I haven't seen that. So I've never, and again, to Stephen's point, I want to move forward on this. We've directed you to move forward on this, but to give myself or Randy the trigger to say, go for it without this council seeing any kind of financial information on either of these two projects alone, much less how much, we don't even know how much fund balance we have to deal with without the CIP projects to put towards these projects. We have not seen any numbers. So at a minimum, I would table this till next meeting and at least give us that kind of base information to look at, to give it some kind of consideration.
Do you remember when we were looking at the SAW grant? How much financial data we were looking at for all the different things, and it was overwhelming. But you were definitely fully informed, maybe even over-informed, to a point. And this is the polar opposite of that, where I know we want to do a project, but I don't know what it's going to cost, and it's just so many moving pieces for me to feel uncomfortable for throwing an interest rate on top of it. I'm not opposed to the concept of bonding, but
I'm not either. We did it with the water tower. We did it with the wastewater overflow tanks. That was that was a 1.2 million.
I'd just like to have a better understanding. This is getting me to focus on paying one bill that I don't know how much it is on my credit card, and I have no idea what the rest of my bills are, or when I need to pay them, or how I'm going to pay them. And I'm also, by the way, not going to be the one who decides to pay them. I'm uncomfortable with that part. I don't want to have any of this reflect negatively on you or your work on this, Dale. I feel as though it's probably a failure on our part to let it get this far with our lack of understanding that we were going to hit this stage right now, and that we were so uncomfortable with the lack of information, financial position that we're in on so many details, and not expressing that to you more clearly sooner. We should have been more clear about what our concerns were and what we needed to say or see to make a fully informed decision before we got to this stage. Because I would imagine I'd be flabbergasted if I was in your shoes right now too, going, I did literally everything you asked me to do, and I did not see this coming. You're correct. 2 months ago, 3 months ago, I wasn't looking at it from this position, but I certainly am now. This feels uninformed.
What I said. I just feel like we keep being told we'll get the information to make a decision, but we haven't seen that yet.
I think that in the end, we will be getting a bond of some amount. And I think we should move forward with it, but we still need the additional information also.
Projects that this is going to cover, we don't sit on enough cash. So I agree that it would be more than likely irresponsible to try to use all of our cash reserves on just these projects. And bonding can certainly be an excellent tool. I just don't like the uncertainty of what that is. And then to massively compound that is our conversation from our last council meeting. And what else? What other projects? What other things are we going to want to use our cash reserves for and not want to use them for? And this current council's lack of knowledge and understanding of what is on our CIP and how outdated it is and what it was even going to cost back then, or projections of what we wanted to do back then, and how outdated that is, just to me compounds that problem. And then given the way that the contract itself is written, or rather the resolution is written, with it then removing council from participation in it from here on out, that's where it really just kind of breaks for me. You know,
Is there a way to add verbiage to it where you're not directing a authorized, I don't know the words.
I want to clarify, one, it's a resolution presented to us. We get to pass resolutions that we want to or not. So are we allowed to modify it? Yes, but when we're talking about something like this, there's very specific things you can and can't do, and I'm out of my depth to tell you what you can and can't do in these, which is why we hire such qualified counsel to prepare it in the first place. And the requirement of having, in this situation, they're calling an authorized officer, but having an appointed individual, an authorized individual to be able to take certain actions in certain circumstances is not usually merely a logistical compliance thing where it's just to make things more logistically convenient. It's usually because it's a requirement. So I'm hard pressed to say that you can't do that. I'm just hard pressed to say appointing one person to do that at this stage before we know any of the other details to go and execute it is my primary issue. I don't know if it's possible to appoint those authorized officers to select the bid and sell it at a later stage in this process when you actually know what they are going to do. Because right now you're authorizing them and here's their hard limits. So I guess if you were truly concerned about how comfortable you were, you'd have to move those limits way down to your comfort level. They couldn't be so high, but then it also defeats the purpose of securing enough funding to actually complete these projects. I mean, I certainly understand our manager's position and his point, because a lot of what we want can't reasonably be completed if we want to move forward with these and if we want to bond. But I think we're all echoing our concerns about the lack of information with which we're making that decision right now.
So the new priority would be a financial review of the two projects in the CIP, cash on hand, and we know what the potential bonding window is. So,
No, I have one small suggestion, if council is willing to entertain it, to amend section 13 to do exactly what we've primarily been concerned about, which would just require the authorized officer to bring the proposed power mounts and structure back to council before the August 25th award for our approval, before they would sign on it, and that could preserve your timetable, restore our vote, our tiny bit of authority, and is somewhat of a meeting of the minds on the things, because then you can preserve your timetable, we can still get bids, we can still find out what our interest rate would be, and it gives council a fail-safe. If at that time they still feel as though they don't know anything, or they've now gained new CIP data and information and other things like that, say, wait a minute, never mind, we shouldn't be doing this at all, they would have a fail-safe. They would have the ability to pull out before it's actually sold, but it wouldn't stop your timetable from moving forward right now as is. It just gives some comfort level.
Within that time, you could gather some of that base information to give council more information.
Exactly. And either we do or we don't, and either council can decide to move forward with whatever information they have at that time or not, but it at least would keep the timetable moving on these projects that we very much so want to do. And Mindy, you and I have a lot of the same concerns on this. We don't necessarily have to kill it right now and say stop. You could do that at a later phase when you actually knew more information of exactly what they're suggesting to borrow, exactly what the interest rate is. You would then have the ability to go, no. Right now, I'm saying yes or no to still unknowns. I don't even, which is the only reason why I don't like what section 12 and 13 say as they are. So if you amended 13 to just put that the authorized officer had to bring the proposed amounts back to us for approval before signing off on it and actually selling it, that would give us that final approval and more knowledge of what we're actually going for, rather than just leaving it in their hands. I understand what you're saying, where they would probably do that anyways, but this contract doesn't require it, and it could happen without our approval, and I just don't like that, in my opinion, that is a drafting gap. And I'm betting that at Miller Canfield, they're going, you wouldn't make them the authorized individual if you didn't trust them implicitly and allow them to run off and just go do it. That's great. We've been robbed by our own clerk treasurer for our water funds before. I'd like to know what the heck we're borrowing. So,
Really, you only have to amend one word in that thing. From without to with. It says right there, without further authorization. All you have to say is with authorization from Village Council.
Sorry.
I don't disagree with you, but when he said it's only one word, I started smiling internally, going, since when? First of all, before we even go through how you would amend it, before we waste the time on that, is that a resolution that this council is even interested in pursuing? Or if that still does not potentially satisfy any of our concerns, we need not waste time trying to find language that's satisfactory.
It does not satisfy my concern.
Okay. So what does council want to do? Bob, Stephen, you guys want to weigh in?
I would say amend the word, and we might have to look at what else. If we're going to go out to bond, most likely, then I don't want to further delay the construction project if that's what it's coming down to.
Whatever we have to do to not create additional delays. And if that's just changing some verbiage, then so be it.
I would still expect that we get a financial picture of the two projects.
Absolutely.
And stuff. Like,
I just feel like that the financial advisors are going to come back and tell us that we could invest our money and make more interest than we're about to pay on a bond, instead of using our money and then just, okay, yep, we got the two projects, but then we're on shoestring budget now for the next few years. I mean, honestly, if you took that same $2.5 million, you could probably make more than 6% interest on it somewhere. Actually, I know we could.
How you invest public funds isn't the same as private.
I understand, but I'm just
we
saying,
don't get to get risky with taxpayer money.
I'm just saying,
So
so
if we change-
they have a perspective on it than we have.
So if
Right, we might
if
not
we
agree
change-
with their
If we
perspective.
change the language, approve it tonight and then get to bring it back to us, does that mean we can stop?
Hold on, I want to clarify. It would be our resolution to pass. And the modification that we would be making here, unless you have a concern that Miller Canfield would say that's not legal.
I'm thinking that they're going to say that.
And if that's what they're going to say, that it's not legal for this council to have authorization, I'm hard pressed to believe that that's true. It is an inconvenience. It is an inconvenience. It doesn't make it as logistically clean. However, I just want to clarify, it's also what our village manager just proposed is what would happen anyways. So inconvenience be damned, it's going to come back before us either way. And this way, we just bake in the fact that we actually get authorization and approval. Because no matter what, you're requiring the authorization and approval of someone on behalf of this entity. Whether you're making that one individual or 7, that's going to happen regardless.
I've worked with Miller Canfield for 8 bond sales, and what I'm saying is if you want to physically change their language that they're presenting to as our legal counsel for a bond, they're going to want you to re-vote on it. They're not going to let you just change it initial, because one time in my early years, I wrote resolution on the top, and they have to have a margin and all that. It had to be trashed and go back to council. That's what I meant by. So if you feel you want to direct in your commentary to the manager, to myself, to go back to Miller Canfield and say, this paragraph is a concern, can we change it to that?
I am
Have it
not
come
directing
back.
it at all. I'm not directing it at all. I don't even agree with that assessment. I just want to clarify, we have resolutions and all kinds of things that are presented to us, which we modify on the spot, and which we would say, or we will do it with this limitation. We can vote on it. We can approve it. If Miller Canfield isn't happy with it, they can let us know that they're not happy with it. But just so I want to clarify, the modified version that we read into the record is what you're then going to type later, which is what you're then going to execute and he's going to execute, is the modified version that gets sent back to them. If they get a completed document as approved by this council and then tell you, we refuse to accept it, that's on them. I disagree.
I'm not saying that they're going to refuse to accept it. I'm going to say that for bond sales, their documents have specific language, and I don't perceive to, that's why they're the bond attorney, and they don't like their language changed. So they want to redo it. So, but I think council should do what they want to do to put this to rest and let us move forward. So I think also I could resend the whole spreadsheet that Kim did on this project for council back over a year ago, which it shows the $1.1 million match, and all of the costs were based on over a year ago that you received from your engineer. Because whenever you're doing a project like this, it changes. You haven't gone out to bid yet. The world is, and the economy's changed, but they give a budget of what you have, what the grant is, and that's what was proposed, so that you haven't probably seen it again recently. I think I put it out in an email to you back in March when I first came, because that's where I was unsure when I was talking to Dale. Wait, what money do you have to provide for this project? What is the cost for the project? There was a spreadsheet on that. So I'll get that back in front of council tomorrow morning so that you can review it.
We would use that as part of the
That'd be very helpful.
meeting the request here for more detail.
If we make the change in the language tonight
Mhm.
and read it and pass the resolution,
Mhm.
that directs them that it has to come back to us to do a final approval on it, and we could deny it at that August 18th meeting, correct?
A little bit more of a clarification to that statement, though. It directs you and Randy that it has to come back to us. It's directing the authorized individuals to present what it is that you were about to agree to, willing to agree to, present it to council for final approval.
So as the president, I have the authority to put it on the agenda if she said, not saying you wouldn't, I'm just hypothesizing here. Or say I'm the president and I say, I don't want it on the agenda, I'm not going to authorize it. Administration could authorize it, correct?
Not if we made the modification. If we make the modification, it's required.
Okay.
Takes both, so.
I mean, yes, you have the ability to put things on the agenda, not put things on the agenda. Yes, she does.
And my second question is, administration, do you think you can give us enough detail, financial detail, as some of the stuff we've stated tonight? We're not talking, obviously, we're not gonna have the whole flipping CIP, but the basics of what our cash on hand is, what your estimation of what we would spend would be. Where is this putting us on the percentage of our loan ability at the state level, because they've got that chart?
Well, we're fine on that because you really don't have any
I
debt.
don't know where we're at. I don't have the numbers.
I'll give you that
We always
number.
get the number.
So it's 5% of your taxable value, but water and sewer is not included. So I have to know on this project how much of the bond is paying for the water and sewer, 'cause that part would not be considered against your debt.
You mean the
So,
very
because
kind
we-
of thing we want to know too?
Right, well, we don't know because you can have an estimate, but we haven't got bids back, so, you know.
Well, estimate based on what we think it might be is better than. you
Correct.
say.
Correct.
It's perfectly fine.
And I know the village has done their bonds a little differently. I've done more on a larger scale with Poundwater. We always had the bond sold like 6 months to a year before we even knew what the total project cost. We had this umbrella because they did that very thing is we invested the funds and you're not paying out on the loan. So we were making all this interest and it kind of compensated for the legal fees, to be honest. So that's the way it's done in the industry a little bit with government. They will sell that bond early just so they have the security of it. And
Perhaps that flew in Pentwater. I don't know if you're familiar with how uncomfortable this community is with bonds for literally anything.
I know. I came from this community, so I fully understand. But just so that you knew that that was
Just walk
a
down-
practice.
Just walk down Main Street and say field.
So
Or, new playground equipment or AC or
Okay, we
anything.
We chewed on that, and it's 10:15, so what's council's pleasure on this?
I mean, I'm of the mind that as long as we put that safeguard in place, that I'd be comfortable continuing the process. But
Was that in both resolutions, or was just the one resolution?
In number 13.
just modifying the language of number 13. But would I change just one word? No.
Well, I know you would.
I'm going to break it into 3 sub-paragraphs, but
Well, before we do that, well, I guess we need to do that so we know what we're voting.
but like I said, I don't want to waste this council's time. If that's not something that they're interested in, then we can move on. If you are, then I'm happy to try to wordsmith up what my suggested proposed modification would be.
I think we should move forward.
Well,
I think we should move forward with the modified language that gives council the ability to review the financial picture at the next meeting.
I felt like the last time this issue came up, and I voted yes against my better judgment, telling me that sold on the fact that the information would come to make a decision before the next step in the process happened. And here we are at the next step, and I still don't have the information. I feel like I will again regret a vote to move forward without information that I wanted to make the last decision.
Good with the modified language and moving forward. It's a month-long process before we get to the next step.
That's everybody get the answer. So
I'm torn. I 75% agree with Mindy, but these are 2 projects we need to get done. This is a stopgap, and it gives us the ability to deny it going forward. So I would say wordsmith.
I think before I come up with that language too, this is a learning experience for this council and for future people who sit in these seats as well. We should have, in fairness to our village manager and our clerk treasurer, we should have made a bigger deal of this earlier on. We should have. That's why I say I regret my vote. I got talked into it, and I should have voted no, because I think that would have sent a clearer message. There are things that we are, making very, very clearly now that we feel as though we needed to know before we got to this point, but we should have been making that clear 6 months to a year ago. And that's a learning experience on us. And I don't feel like it's fair to put them in a position where they can't move the projects they worked so hard on forward, nor is it fair to deprive them. community of moving these projects forward because we didn't make that clearer sooner. All right, I would. Let's see. I would probably strike all of 13, and you can tell me if there's any of this language you don't agree with, but
Go slowly so I get it right. Because the recording is not always helpful.
but still leave a heading for 13. Right now it's award of sale of bonds, and I would change that to sale parameters, semicolon, award of sale bonds, period. So I put the parameters there in the heading. And then I would do a sub paragraph A, council approval for final par amount prior to publication of the official notice of sale and prior to distribution of the preliminary official statement, an authorized officer shall present to the village council at a regular or special meeting. And I would do colon.
I don't take shorthand, so you'll have to write this and send it to me.
I will.
Will you do that for the morning?
I will.
Thank you.
The final aggregate principal amount of the bonds proposed to be offered. And then second sub under that, the proposed maturity schedule. Third sub under that, the estimated true interest cost as advised by the village's municipal advisor. And the estimated annual debt service on the bonds and its projected effect on the general fund. The bonds shall not be offered for sale in an aggregate principal amount exceeding the amount approved by resolution of the village council at that meeting. That's that safeguard that we would be able to bake in to give us the actual information and data rather than it being generalities with hard caps. We'd actually know where it stood. And then sub B, I'd make allocation and source of payment. The presentation required by subsection A shall include the allocation of project costs between DPW, or I guess spell it out all the way, Department of Public Works facility, and the water, sewer, and road improvements, and shall identify the source or sources from which debt service attributable to the water and sewer improvements is proposed to be paid, including any interfund transfer from water fund or the sewer fund. And to round that out, I would do a sub C to finish it off and say for just C, sub C being an award, subsection to a subject to subsections A and B, each authorized officer is hereby individually authorized on behalf of the village without further authorization or approval of this village council to award the sale of the bonds to the bidder whose bid meets the requirements of law and which produces the lowest true interest cost of the village computed in accordance with the terms of the official notice of sale as published, provided that no award shall be made if the true interest cost of the winning bid exceeds. And we could put in the number that we want or the percentage that we want per annum. If no conforming bid is received, all bids shall be rejected and the bonds may be reoffered only upon further action of the village council. But that gives us the same ability to bake in hard caps, but it requires approval beforehand with actual delivery of information. I know that was a lot of verbiage, but that's how you would bake it in. Any thoughts on 3 subparagraphs rather than just one word?
Well, I'm kind of, how do I look at this? So we have a resolution where I think that needs to live, but that subsection 13 that you just redid is under bullet number 6 of our resolution. So it's as if that form, quote unquote, is called the bond form that was generated by Miller Canfield, is that's what they're going to publish out to the world, right?
Yeah. Correct.
But that's only if we agree. And do we have more control in that, in our 1 through 5 that sits above that in that same
Well, I mean,
resolution?
They're one document. The notice that we are approving lives inside of the resolution. So, I mean, could you also make equivalent changes above that? Sure, but you still couldn't leave 12 and 13 as currently written. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to modifying additional verbiage above it.
Well, because actually 12 and 13 sit below that bond form in another sub-bond notice of sale form.
The official notice of sale, right?
Yeah.
Right. But again, they are still all one document.
Okay, but I see what Randy, what you're saying about that official notice of sale document, because they're not going to publish that official notice of sale document until we've all agreed we're going to go forward.
Because only the entire
At that
council's
point, when we
authorized.
say we need this much money, that's when they're going to publish that. At that point, it is already too late. We've already should have all agreed that we were going to sale. Because that doesn't happen in this schedule of events until, like it said, the 18th.
There is no, I understand what you're saying at that point, but again,
Yeah.
there is no point at which it comes back to us and this is the language we are approving them to send out.
Yeah.
So your only opportunity to bake in it comes back to us for approval would be at this stage. Because that's what they're getting you to do, is authorize the entire process moving forward for streamlining it. And I don't blame them for trying to get rid of bureaucratic red tape. In fact, I applaud them for it. If the circumstances were different, I'd probably be fine with it. It's the totality of the circumstances that are making me take pause and say, I want to bake in a chance for it to come back. Because the resolution itself approves the official notice of sale and includes it, and it approves the 2026 capital improvement bond, and it approves the resolution all in one. They are all one document. Though that other verbiage lives inside of this resolution. So by changing that language, you are, yes, also changing the resolution. And I don't see anywhere above modifying it would achieve what we were just discussing, and or not leave you open to the notice of sale still saying something you don't want and aren't comfortable with. In the meantime, anybody else have any other comments on that language? What you'd like to do with it? I can go back to just one word. I'm not satisfied with that, but
So what you read is a variation of what's on the page there, or is it something completely new?
it's
There were 3 subsections.
so 13 as it sits right now, paragraph 13 as it sits right now, would essentially become paragraph 13C. And I added an A and B in front of it, right? I made it 13 A, B, and C. Right now it's just 13. 13 as it is right now basically becomes 13C. And I put 2 subparagraphs before it. One that requires that all of it come back in front of council with very specific information, right? And then on top of that, how it's allocated. Are we going to be, what portion of this are we putting towards DPW? Which portion of this are we putting towards water, sewer, and road improvements, clarification on the data that this board has demonstrated they're very uncomfortable with. That information being presented clearly to council for them to authorize, and then the remaining language of 13, where they're authorized to go forward. So it just puts the safeguard in place of they've got to come back, they've got to present it to us in a very clear, specific format of what the details are, where it's not so generic with just hard caps, and to understand how the intent would be to spend it, so that this board can then feel informed and either choose to authorize or not authorize. Which I got to imagine is what the authorized person is going to be doing anyways. Now they're just doing it with the full backing of council. Thoughts? Anyone? We're going to get out our sleeping bags if you guys don't start weighing in here soon.
Well, I guess my question is will staff gonna have time to put this on the August 4th agenda, because the next August meeting is the 18th, which is the day of publication of the sale.
Well, and what I was saying is that should be pushed back a week, because that's when we should be voting on it, on the 18th.
Also,
Because there's
push back the publishing of it a week.
yeah, because if you look at their timeline here, there's one big TBD in there, and that's we get construction bids back.
Right.
Just a small detail. The other one is that the week of the 10th, so that could be the 10th, according to their little asterisk thingy, or it could be the end of that same week. They have to have a due diligence conference with us, with the bond council, and with MFCI. So that would be them giving all of the feedback of, we gather all the information, everything's lined up, all lights are go, are we pulling the trigger or not? That's the week after the 4th. So what I'm saying is then the next week is when, if we're coming back for vote, that's when we'd vote. Everybody, they said all lights are green. Are we going to go or not go?
So none of this is in stone because we haven't approved it yet. We can simply not approve it and wait 2 weeks, have a presentation at the next meeting, and then you decide, and the bond council will update the schedule based on a 2-week delay.
That would be my preference.
I preface this with trying not to create the delay. If administration and council is so inclined, I'm not going to object to that. That doesn't meet the concerns that I've raised. I don't take issue with that. I guess I want to know what we seem to reach a consensus on. We would change the verbiage of section 13. I proposed a rather lengthy section amendment, and I'm not getting any feedback on what we think about that verbiage or what we want to do about that. Now we've changed the topic to the timeline and creating an additional delay. And again, which I'm not necessarily opposed to, can we just kind of tackle one issue at a time here to?
I just go at the timeline to make sure we weren't making a vote next Tuesday when the thing was going to get published.
And like I said, I don't think it's a bad point to bring up, and I do think it needs to be addressed. I just feel like we've just moved from one thing to another, and I don't really know that we're any closer to actually anyone making a motion to pass this resolution or not.
What I'm saying is you would table it until the next meeting.
And if we were so going to do so, it would also present the opportunity for the proposed amended language that I just gave, if council is so inclined to go forward with it, for that to be given back to Miller Canfield and for them to weigh in, and for that language to be adopted into the draft presented to council so they could see it for themselves as they were doing it. If council was so inclined, or if you hate that language or don't like it or don't want to do it, then it shouldn't be part of that. I'm just trying to figure out where we started on that.
Do we even need that language if
Might
we're
not
gonna
need
get
it.
the full financial picture at some point?
Next meeting.
And then Miller Campfield.
We're gonna have a full financial picture in
I
the
don't
next 2 weeks. I mean, how realistic does anyone believe that actually is?
Well, I think at least a better financial
Yeah.
picture would
I
be
think we need
helpful.
something. Doesn't have to be incredibly detailed, but. So I don't know. I was thinking total cost of the project. What's our fund balances? Option A, B, and C, cash, hybrid, bond. Impact to the debt, like.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's-
However, not that I dispute that at all. Everything will be an estimate because we will have no facts, no hard facts.
Better than
Just so
nothing.
you know.
Zero facts.
Better than,
I
yeah.
still say we bake the language in as a protection.
What you just
Well, at
mentioned,
least send it back to Miller Campfield so that they can either say, yeah, or never gonna happen.
Which
So,
Randy said they probably are going to say.
I think to send it back to,
Yeah.
I think to send it back to Miller Camper, we still need a motion on the record to do it.
one clarification as to, so far, I spit out a bunch of paragraphs that nobody's weighed in on whether they like or not.
Because we don't know it good enough without seeing it. I guess that's where I stand. You read through it. It's very legalese. For me, I would have to read through it and digest it a little bit to try to understand what the words say. Remember, I was the one who said to go from without to with. So
And this
That's
is
where
why
I like that.
this is why we have continually asked for resolutions to be an open discussion and not for a vote on the agenda. This is the exact reason why we were here until 10:35.
So I agree they can weigh in on your verbiage and then we can see it baked in if they don't poo-poo it. And if they say, yeah, that's fine, it works, then at least we have a chance to digest it before we vote on it.
I just don't understand the point of the verbiage if we're gonna already be waiting. Like, yeah.
Because what you just mentioned as proposed information you might receive falls woefully short of what I put in the language.
About
Well,
having
then
an
we vote
optional-
no and we wait until we get what we need.
But again, then we're putting ourselves back on further delay of not moving forward with the project rather than moving forward to actually find out that data and have it presented to us for final approval. That's what I'm getting at.
But are we though? Because we could use cash on hand if we need to pull any grant money, if that's how the matching works. That was my question earlier to Dale is can we bond it halfway through the project?
Part of the problem here is we don't know how much cash we have available per thing that we can spend on per project. I just want to clarify, of the capital improvement funds that we have, we don't know how much is allocated to certain funds that we can use and we can't use. You can't take money that you set aside for water sewer and use it in a different area, and we don't have clarification on what we can. We know we have a savings. We haven't been instructed or provided with what savings you actually can use for that. It, in my opinion, is premature to say that. You're probably right. We don't actually know that. That's why I'm saying is like, it's this assumption that we could just pay the match out of pocket. Can we? How so? How much do you have in each part that you've actually saved for? Because you can't cross those funds over those lines. If council is not interested in this, that's fine. I'm not trying to force it on anybody's throat. I'm trying to figure out how we get out of this log jam to the point where we have the possibility of moving it forward. We also get more information so we're comfortable, and we still have, a parachute where we can bail out at the last minute and go, never mind, not comfortable with it. The hoping that we will have that information in the next 2 weeks, I think is wishful thinking. That we will have the information that's going to satisfy this council to clarify Dale, I saw the eye roll there. I'm not saying that you won't be able to present any information. I'm just clarifying that we have throughout this meeting and the last indicated that there's a lot of different information we would like to see. I tried to bake some of that into the language. I just emailed all that language to you so you can look at it in person. And if you are not interested in it at this time, that's fine. If you are interested in proposing it as a modification to the resolution so Miller Canfield can either sign off on it or not, turn it back around, fine. I'm just trying to figure out how we move forward productively.
The chair reacts best to motions.
I'll make the motion that we table this until the next meeting.
Support.
Motion on the table to table this until next meeting. Made by Councilmember Feldman, supported by Councilmember Steffler.
We have just further discussion on it before we do. What do we learn by next meeting? The other potential. I'm just saying, how does it? If you did that and then you still wanted language like this, do you still want to send it to Miller Canfield to see if it's approved? And then we wait another 2 weeks? I'm just trying to figure out what the thought process is. I'm not saying I disagree with you. I'm just trying to figure out what you're thinking.
I can modify the motion to table it with a review of the potential of additional language to Miller Canfield so we can get feedback so that next we can make a more informed decision. One, based on the financials, two, if this language is acceptable or not acceptable, and which should come back in the resolution. Either it's there or it's not there, right? Based on their feedback for the August 4th meeting.
And I'm only asking that if you like the concept in general at all. Anyways, if you don't, I'm not trying to push that. I'm trying to go just.
I like the concept. I have my reservations, but I'll defer that to bond legal counsel.
Yeah, they're the experts here. I don't have any other questions then.
I support Stan's.
Motion by, amended motion by Councilmember Feldman as stated on the record, supported by Councilmember or President Pro Tem Steffler to table this and send the amended language to Miller Canfield. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously by all council members present. That is the last agenda item before we go to closed session. Manager council comment. Mr. Kerberson, when do you have to bring council?
Just that I have a list, but I'll pare it down. We'll be starting negotiations with the Great Lakes Water Authority over the future water costs for the village. I've already told you we can begin incurring costs for the project with the grant on the 1st of next month. The biggest thing that happened was in the last few weeks was that I went to a conference. I was not registered for the conference, but I attended the lobby and milled around the conference to talk to any potential candidates to replace me. I can very confidently say I had 5 good candidates that are qualified and interested and currently working. So as we move forward, I'll talk with them more and then we can flesh out a list and a potential plan or process moving forward with and maybe a trainee or a interim or what's the term I'm looking for? Assistant, something like that, for a period of time, and then someone that's prepared to move into the spot. So it was very successful. That's it.
Chief Wills.
Just to update you on a couple of minor things after this finding things discussion. I'll try to keep it short and sweet. The police department, we've been in contact with the homecoming board regarding a couple of their concerns, golf cart permissions, and because we have a new ordinance, as well as some additional parking. They wanted to, some possible potential ideas. I think that's all worked out. We did meet with the DDA in regards to some of their planning plans, pretty close and similar to last year, minus a couple of small personnel changes, maybe some locations as suggestions. We did install the new bowlers at the PD. If you haven't seen them, guys love them. The new lobby wall was completed, 100% up and running. And my secretary over there, she really likes having that. After having it installed for a solid week, she's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe we haven't done that before." The painting has begun at the police department. We're just about halfway through the building right now. He's been there for 2 days. We're about halfway through. The township asked us maybe 6-8 weeks ago to assist them with the marijuana grow inspections. They had 7 still up and running per se. 4 were failed inspections. 3 did pass. One is current. One of those 4 that have failed is going to be shut down for sure. We were assisted by the fire department as well as the building inspector for those inspections. We developed some information maybe a little over a week or so ago about a possible illegal grow in the township. So we actually executed a search warrant this morning. If you guys smell the marijuana outside, we executed the search warrant with the assistance of Inlay City PD. And then we were also had the fire department, APD fire, AFD was there with us for potential issues with wiring stuff. We also were assisted by the DPW today with transportation and stuff because there was a lot of stuff. We took over 200 mature plants out of the residents. One of the other things is we had one of our officers, one of our full-timers at midnight. He's been off, non-related work injury. He's been off for 6 weeks. We've been filling in with our part-time staff. I don't know when he's coming back to work, but we haven't missed any shifts. We've been filling everything. I am looking at a potential candidate to fill Officer Hager's part-time position that we've had open since he left. And I'm hoping within the next 4 to 6 weeks to have that guy brought on board, which will help us relieve, some of the shortage that we've had on the midnight shift. And that's about it for me.
Clerk Treasurer Listman.
I have nothing else to add.
Councilmember Welton.
Set.
Councilmember Snyder.
Oh boy. Couple things. One, I noticed today there was some buzz on one of the social media pages that somebody had posted a document that they received. Noticed that Kingsbrook has been taken over in a receivership. They are the entity. It's in federal court. A federal receiver has been appointed. They are now in charge of the property. They defaulted on their mortgage, and since it was through Fannie Mae, it goes through federal court. And so that federal system sued and took over the property. So I just wanted to make sure that village staff was especially aware. Not sure what that's going to mean for the ongoing agreements and negotiation of what you were doing there and the timely monthly payments that you were going to be receiving, because they are no longer in charge of the bank accounts. They're no longer in charge of receiving the rental payments. They're no longer in charge of making the payments on it. It has been fully taken over by a very well-known bankruptcy trustee and his private firm and entity. So just wanted to make sure that's something you were aware of. You may want to reach out and make contact soon. I can send you over that letter that was posted, which will have some contact information for you.
Mr. President, we've already been contacted and given them all the information.
Perfect.
So they've asked all the debts that are owed, and I'm prepared to do anything we need to with the bank, for the
Perfect.
bankruptcy attorney, so.
All right. Well, they're not technically in bankruptcy.
Correct, so, but
But it's through the federal court. There's a receiver. It's pretty similar. So just making sure you're aware of that one. Next, I just wanted to ask, I see that the tree in Burley Park got cleaned up. Did we ever figure out, so whose property was it? Was it privately owned property? Is that village property?
The tree, the remaining tree was the project of the property owner. The piece that was in the park was removed by us and our contractor. So they provided some information to the DPW supervisor indicating that the property that it falls on is responsible for cleaning it up. So we cleaned it up.
Okay.
And I don't know that we've received the bill yet, but we did arrange to clean it up.
Yeah, I mean, they were there all day and it was a full crew, lots of equipment. So it's either way, I'm just glad that it got cleaned up and it was addressed. I was just curious if it was in fact village property, but the explanation makes sense. My only other issue I wanted to ask about was the GLWA water rates. We talked about 2 weeks ago that any increase, or well, whatever we set the water rates in, that we would bake in the increase that we would get from GLWA. When is GLWA setting our rates? That hasn't happened yet, to my knowledge. When are they setting our rates?
They gave us an increase notice at the back end, what was it, March? Something like that, so we could use for budgeting, which we discussed here. This new contract will be going forward. So I'm not sure if it starts the next calendar year.
So there's a formal negotiation date. There's a formal negotiation date for GLWA and the water rates.
Yes, we will. We're getting together to do that process, and part of the preparation will be reviewing it with an attorney that either may or may not be with us during those negotiations.
When is that date? That's what I'm asking.
It's August 13th.
Okay. So that's why I was asking, because that's what I remember before, is that, yeah, we contracted our attorney. We even had Roe involved in it before. Like it's a big preparation to go in and battle with them how we set those rates. So we're doing all of that now, or no, or because I haven't seen any excessive weight trim bills and preparing for it. So I mean, are we going to go to Roe instead, or what are we doing? Because that's coming up rather soon, it sounds like.
At this point, the package arrived in my computer. I think it was Thursday. The formal announcement, the date, that sort of thing. I don't know if it's the agenda or not, but I've been through 4 or 5 of these, and I just haven't dug into it yet because we just hasn't been time, so I haven't looked at it yet.
Okay.
But the preparation of the rate, so to go back to what you said, you can bring in Roe and they can do an elaborate study, and we can review the rates, and we can go to the meeting with their 7 lawyers and their 6 engineers, and they've already determined what our rate will be. So I will ask them in advance for their proposed increase or what they're going to do, or if they're not going to do anything, because we have met our contract for the last 5 years. So we'll get to a point where we know there is a need to discuss this, or they're not doing anything, and we don't need to pour out a bunch of effort into learning that we would agree with them anyway. So We're just not started yet.
I just remember from before, one of the reasons why we did that, and we had Rose involvement and spent the time and effort, was to get better contract provisions and better rates, because otherwise they're going to, do what's most advantageous to them and to their organization if we don't prepare.
But they were Detroit Water that existed to spread their costs on all the constituents outside of Detroit. Now it is run by a group of municipalities who do what's best for all municipalities, and the contract's the same everywhere. So I hear what you're saying, but I don't think that there is a huge amount of wiggle room. Not that we won't be trying. I was talking it over with Brian recently, a couple of the angles that we would be approaching to try to get our rate or our multipliers down. But we just haven't dug into it enough yet.
That's all I had. Thank you.
Just real quickly, we need to reschedule this. Next park board meeting was scheduled for tomorrow due to room availability and member availability. We're going to reschedule that to this coming Tuesday, July 28th, location TBD.
Councilmember Miller.
The surveys, have we gotten the surveys back yet?
Surveys for
Parking lots?
yeah.
So
The one you mean the effort that was being done to look at the handicap parking issue?
Yes.
Yeah, no, we have not received that back. That is a Wade Trim project that's in process. They did say from the beginning, and I'm pretty sure I announced that it would be 2 months. That's what they felt it would be required to get that done, because the biggest difficulty is requesting the detailed information from the county that they will use to do the analysis. So it might get it in a day, or it might take 2 or 3 weeks or more to get it.
Okay.
But that request went in, I think, a month ago.
So we should have it pretty soon, we hope. All right. Has anything been done with the remuneration committee yet?
Not on my side.
I have not contacted them. Last week was busy. I was going to wait and do that next week and let all those that know they're on the committee and set a date to meet with them.
I had a couple of them ask me,
Okay.
when am I going to be contacted? So, also, last thing, I will not be here for the next council meeting. I'll be out of town on business and pleasure, both. So that's all.
I just have one thing. In the spirit of the petitions being put in today and the comments about staff over shortage, just a long way heads up that we should be prepared in November when new council members come on to have the process set to get the old laptops from the old council members, have the new laptops and new accounts created for the new council members. There should be somewhere existing a onboarding packet for new council members.
I already found that.
Okay, have that available. They are ready, and make sure their email addresses are created and all that, so everything's ready to go.
And a key.
And a key.
There's a key agreement for it too. Yeah.
That was just on the top of my head since we were talking about training and the election coming up. So, forewarning. Do we have a motion to go into closed session?
Well, Mr. President,
Yeah.
before we do that,
Yep.
taking note of the hour and the fact that you commented at the beginning that the reviews are in, but they haven't been tallied, I would be fine if we want to delay this to the next meeting.
We need to know what's going on here.
I am wildly uncomfortable that you are outside of contract, and if you recall, I said this exact thing would happen. I would love to hear what you have to say, so I don't want to wait until August. Do you feel like it's a very substantive discussion?
Well, the reviews wouldn't necessarily be unless we pulled each one out and went over them. And the contract is very minor. It's just got maybe 3 changes.
Just get it addressed. We're going to be late either way. It's late, so I mean, I'd rather not push it to next month, but that's just my opinion. It already sounds like we're pushing a lot to next month anyway, so unless we want to be here that late that night too.
To be perfectly honest, like, it's almost 11 o'clock. I'm not feeling in the best place to have a detailed discussion.
Mr. President, what would Mr. Kerberson prefer? It's his review.
Let me ask Mr. Kerberson a question real quick.
I am fine with that delay because again,
You're not gonna be sending me an email tomorrow at 5 o'clock saying,
I don't have a contract. I'm not coming in. No, I'm just saying that,
I won't be here next meeting.
yeah, you won't be here, but I didn't know that. So,
Well, I'm going to make the motion that council enter into closed session pursuant to Section 8A of the Open Meetings Act, MCL 15268A, to consider the periodic personnel evaluation of the village manager, with that person having requested a closed hearing at the beginning of this meeting. You guys can choose to support it or not.
Support.
Thank you.
motion by Councilmember Schneider, supported by Councilmember Miller to go into closed session as stated on the record, a roll call.
Roll call for this?
Yes, to go into closed session, yes.
Oh, right.
Feldman,
Nay.
Glazier, oh, sorry. Miller,
Aye.
Schneider,
Aye.
Powell,
Hey.
Stoeffler,
Hey.
and Dyke. So it's a tie.
3-3 tie. So, motion fails.
That was a tie.
It's a tie. It fails. It fails. on a
It fails. Tie is a fail. You have to have a majority for it to pass.
Who said no? I mean, these two.
So, and Pete,
Oh, I didn't hear.
they want to go home, Dale. They don't care if you're under contract.
We should have the reviews compiled and put together.
Yeah, agreed. That's helpful also.
Then can council actually answer what the heck they want to do? Because we were supposed to form a whole committee to come up with a new thing. We never did. And now, even as our manager pointed out, there's no clarity who's compiling, him or our president.
I sent it to Tim.
So did I.
I can compile, but I want direction that does every council member want me to send them every review or how do you want me to do this? I need direction.
I think you can compile results and comments into one document.
And we want it tomorrow. No,
Yes, it can.
Well, it's
Okay.
Not that you want to.
Okay, but I'll try and have that out by Friday.
so let me ask, are you saying you want every single person's comment and their score? Or
I think
you just
compile
want a compilation of the scores?
the scores.
So question
and then
one, question two, question three, the
And then
average
include-
score was X.
if there is a comment, include comments.
So that is what you said the first time. It's a compilation of every score and every comment.
Good.
What you said the first time.
Exactly.
Everybody sent it as a Word document so you can cut and paste.
Probably not, and I'm not, I mean, I know Office, but I'm not a good
Nice.
document compiler.
You like that?
I liked it. I wish I would have had that a week ago.
Took me about.
We're adjourned.
Well, one of the things that has been real interesting was an attempt to give you an updated contract. So using my old contract, We redid this thing a good dozen times. And every single time it was saved, no matter what we did to straighten it up,